Audio check.
Yep, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Yep, sounds good.
Yep, hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome to the first day of our cohort. Um, let me go ahead and share my screen here. Um, this is my first time using Zoom in a browser, and so it's a bit new here. Let's see. Host disable attendee screen sharing. Okay. Starlight. I feel like, do I need host permissions to share in the Zoom
Yes, I
sessions?
think Harsh should have given you host permissions. Let's see if he can get that going for you.
Okay.
Yes,
Tony,
Sean,
do you
please.
have host? Oh, go ahead.
I think that I have a co-host, so I should be able to go ahead and share my screen if we need to.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second. Just setting up everything here. 1 second.
Sean, before we go further with this session, let's do a first audio check with all our learners to make the things up right. So kindly confirm me on the chat box that our voice is loud and clear to all of you in this session or not. If not, please let us know. If yes, please let us know. Perfect, perfect. And from trainer's side, Sean, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect, perfect. Then we can start further.
And I will mention before we do officially start that we do love seeing all of your bright and shining faces. I know for some of you it is very late. I am a part of that. Some of you it is 8:30 over here. I have my coffee and I am ready to go. So if you could turn on your cameras, that would be wonderful. It helps create our little kind of cohort family.
So true, Starlight.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm still trying to figure out Zoom here and trying to get my screen to display here. Sorry. Hey Tony, do you have your screen shared or is that my screen? Can you guys hear me? Check. I don't check.
I can hear Sean. Tony, I can't hear you. See if we can
Yeah, I
get
think
it
it's
to work.
when I first tried to share, I think I had some permission issues. Give me, let's see.
Are you co-host now, Sean?
I am.
Okay, perfect. So
I think
hopefully it'll let you this
it was
time.
like a system. Yeah, hold on. Let me try it one more time
Oh,
here.
Zoom.
Grant browser access to screen recording. Hmm.
Sean,
Are you guys able to see my
does it
screen?
show any error? No, we can't see it. Sean, is it showing any error?
Oh. Yeah, it says please grant browser access to screen recordings.
So I think in your browser there's like a security check option. Click on that and give the permission for your camera and screen permission. I think by default your browser is not allowing.
Okay.
Might or try to rejoin the meeting again. Might it help?
Yeah, let me try to rejoin.
Yeah.
All right. Are you guys able to hear me now?
Yes.
All right,
Yes, you are
excellent.
audible.
So we'll be pointing out that while my co-instructor is coming back into our meeting to be able to go ahead and try and be able to see if we can be able to go ahead and share the slides that we have for you guys tonight. Um, this is going to be one of the things that might happen throughout the period of the boot camp, since we are dealing with an online experience, right? And so that's going to be one of the things that happens periodically is that there's going to be technical issues that we might come across from time to time. And of course, we will tackle them as they happen and we'll get through them together, and then we'll go ahead and overcome them and be able to continue on. But just be aware that there are going to be technical issues both on your ends and on ours as well, and we'll work through those together as we go along.
All right, try this one more time. Can you guys see my screen?
No, it's not.
I saw some thumbs up. No? Uh,
I can see you. I can't see the screen.
okay.
Yes, we can
Tony?
see the screen.
Cool, cool. All right. Tony, are you able to share?
Yeah, let me go ahead and try that. So let me go ahead and share right now what I have, and let's see if that'll work, so that way we can at least go that way.
All right.
Hey, Tony,
I
I
can
can
see your
see a
screen now.
slide.
What was that? Was that harsh?
Yes. Yes, sure.
No, I thought you were saying something on the chat. Never mind. We can get started. Sorry about the technical difficulties, guys. We appreciate your patience. First day, we'll try to figure this out as we go, but hopefully on our next session, it'll be a much smoother start here. But yeah, as Starlight said, welcome to the cohort. We recommend and appreciate if you would turn on your webcam so we could see your faces. And throughout the cohort, it'll be we'll be doing a lot of interactive sessions. So yeah, so if you haven't, please turn on your webcams. And while we wait for everyone to sign in here, please go ahead and answer some of these questions in the chat. So where you're located, what either your city or region, and how much cyber or technical background you have prior to this bootcamp, and what made you want to start a career in cybersecurity. And then finally, share one trait of a great instructor and why that makes them great. So we'll spend about 5 minutes here, and let me see if I missed any of the chats prior to here. Let's see. So, Harsh, is there a way I could look at the class, like everyone in the class in the Zoom view? Because I only see my face. I was wondering if I could see the whole class, so I could see their names and their faces.
You might
You
not
gotta
see the
hit
whole
the view
class,
button
but
in
you
the
could go
corner.
through, yeah, you could go through the view button in the corner. You can also look through the participants button. That's kind of how I look at, see all of our wonderful learners.
Okay, but I can't see like in the box view of like, you know what I mean? Like, is there a way I can see the entire class, or is that I could only see
Not if the screen is shared. You can see at most 6, I think.
okay. Got it. Cool. All right, now I'm just browsing through. It might take me some time to get the name to your face. I still see quite a few without cameras on. So, if you could please turn your cameras on. So it might be uncomfortable at first, but you know we'll be together for 6 months, so you know we'll get comfortable real quick. Let's see. Okay, I see some of you driving. So if you're driving, please go ahead and focus on driving. And then once you get home, you could turn your camera on. But let's see. All right, so let me read some of this chat here. So just to understand, Starlight and Harsh, there's no way I could pull the participants or the chat outside of the browser. It had to just kind of fit into the browser with the screen share.
think
No,
so.
you can, Sean, but if someone is sending direct message to you, we always like you can only direct message. But if everyone is sending to everyone, then you can talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, because I have one screen, and I'm basically like it's all like segmented into the screen share, the participants, and the chat, but I
That's
can't
the way I
drag any
have
of
it
it out.
too. So I have
Okay, so you
the
can't drag it
screen
out to like
share, the participants in a bar, and then I have the participants at the top, and then the chat in the bottom.
okay. So basically, you
But if
can't drag
anyone
it
ever
to.
raises their hand, they get put to the front of this screen. So if anyone ever has a question, I suggest making sure that you go to your reactions and you raise your hand, because then you'll be brought to the top of the screen where all of the trainers and myself and Harsh will be able to see you. Just don't forget to lower it when you're done.
Cool. All right. Well, I can't see the chat. I will go ahead and look at that after we go on our first break here. But welcome to the class. Welcome to the cohort. Whether you have a lot of experience or no experience whatsoever, throughout the cohort for the next 6 months, we'll go over everything you need to know to become the next cybersecurity analyst or professional. And we're going to be talking about our curriculum in just a bit here. But yeah, I will go ahead and try to reply to some of these comments, but it's a very tiny box for me right now. So I'll go ahead and look at that in just a bit. Tony, if you could go to the next slide here. Yep, again, welcome. Next slide. All right, so beat your team. So first, we'll go over our team. So first on the list here is me, Sean. I'll be your co-instructor for this cohort. Tony, you want to go introduce yourself real quick?
Can't hear Tony. Gotta love Zoom, you guys. Well, that's our wonderful second instructor. We have Tony. He's on my top. So there we go. Point up. I don't know if that looks weird on your screens, but there he is. I am the program manager, so I'm here to just look through all the feedback. You can reach out to me anytime. I kind of just bring the extra joy and coffee to the group. And our learning success managers, we have two of them. One is Harsh, who is super knowledgeable and very techie to the point where I would never understand. And Isabel, who is another friendly face that you will see sometime later this week. So that is all of us. And if you'd like to go to the next slide, Tony, I'll say the next part. So good to know points. Attendance will be updated in your learning management system within 72 hours from the time your session ends. Recordings will be available 24 to 48 hours from the time your session ends. So you'll be able to go back into your past classes and be able to watch previous recordings. Project deadlines to be submitted before the next course starts. So there are multiple courses in this class, in this cohort. So make sure to submit those projects 5 days before you need to be in your next course at the very least, because it'll take 5 days for your project to be evaluated. So we suggest doing it before 5 days, but sometimes we like to procrastinate. So pretend that 5 days is the due date so that you do it 5 days early. That way you can get into your next course. And certification criteria, it says 65% of attendance in live classes are mandatory to help, give you your credentials, and assessments and projects wherever applicable. We understand that not everyone can be at every class at every time. Please reach out to me if your internet's down, if, the dog ate your computer, I don't know. Something like that, where you just need to talk to me and say, hey, I missed class. What can I do? And we can talk about it, you and I, and figure it out. And yeah, so those are really important. I would highly suggest using that Slack channel that I tagged a bunch of people in earlier. You should have gotten an email. Use that for the chat so that Sean and Tony can see it a lot better, and so I can see it a lot better. We can keep a running record of the questions that are being asked, because once Zoom is over and the session is done, we do not see these questions again. So it is always good to keep a running record of questions, not only for us, but also for the rest of your cohort and the rest of your classmates. They want to know too. I would also suggest, if you have a question, to go to your reactions and press raise hand. Don't unmute yourself immediately, because as the teachers are teaching, as the instructors are instructing, whatever way you want to say that, they could very possibly get distracted with someone jumping into the session and saying, hey, I have a question. I forgot my question. That sounds like me. So just make sure that you raise your hand. You can put it in the chat as kind of like a little bookmark to say, like, I'm going to ask this in a couple seconds. Harsh and I, and in the future, Isabel, are watching the chat as much as possible. So if you do have a question, we will either answer it or make sure Tony or Sean sees it somehow, even if it means that we raise our hands so that they can see it. So don't worry, you will be heard. Just try to keep to those rules, just because it makes the session go a lot smoother. So yeah, that's all my point.
Thank you, Starlight. So for today, our main objective for today is just getting through the orientation, learning about the curriculum, about the boot camp, getting to know each other of your cohort teammates and students, and basically go over a couple exercises that we have prepared today. But we'll work together to connect your career goals to the bootcamp experience, curriculum, and the instructional team. We're going to try to validate the value of your transportable skills and prior experiences to success in the bootcamp and the profession. Again, we're going to try to build connections, not only today, but throughout our cohort. We will have a lot of breakout sessions. You'll get to meet different members of your cohorts and build connections there. And finally, identify resources available to you to provide individualized support for academic and non-academic needs. All right, so hopefully by end of today, we'll be able to accomplish these 4 tasks. Tony, next slide. how are we getting there? So again, we're gonna do team intros. We'll do some icebreaker exercises, group resume, pre-reflections, why cybersecurity, going over the curriculum, going over all the tools such as our LMS. If we have time, we'll go over the red team and the differences between red team and blue team, and we'll wrap up our lessons or our orientation at the end of the day. Next slide. Okay, so this is our first group exercise. So this is our instructional team introduction. So this is between me and Tony. But basically, when we do a breakout session, you and your team or group will do a group resume where you identify your common goals, some of the traits or some of the key features that you guys have as a team, combined years. I think there's like a template that we're going to share with you where you guys have to fill in this information. But for us, we have combined years experience supporting learners. That's 7 years. We have 13 years combined years of professional experience and 11 years combined years of education and training in cybersecurity. So we do have, I guess, over a decade of experience in cybersecurity and teaching. So hopefully you guys will be in good hands here. But what we want to learn is more about you guys and the exercise for you guys to learn each other. All right, so in the template, we're going to go over how to get the template and how you guys could work on it. But basically, you guys will talk amongst yourselves and come up with the common goals and some of the skills that you guys have. And then when we come back, we're going to be sharing some of these information with the rest of the cohort. So next slide, Tony. All right, so group resume. So in order to get to your group resume template, let's see. You're gonna share the LMS, Tony, or we gotta figure out the sound and the sharing.
I was gonna say it kind of works. You both complete each other.
Yeah, Tony can't talk and I can't share. Okay. Cool. So in your LMS, if you go into the first module, which is the Cybersecurity Fundamentals, and you click the lesson, and you go into your module on the right, there's 2.3, lesson 2.3 orientation. And if you scroll down, there will be exercise 1A or activity 1A, group resume. So basically when we break you guys into your breakout sessions, one member from the team will create a copy of that group resume. So if you just click that link, it will ask you to make a copy. And once you make that copy, you'll basically have a template with series of questions. And you guys will talk amongst yourselves and answer and fill out the form. And when we come back, we'll go ahead and share it with the rest of the cohort. There it is. Thank you, Tony. So that's the document that you'll be copying over. And this is the template that you guys will be filling out for group resume. Okay. Any questions before we start this exercise?
So on mine, I can't open it. It just keeps saying that the topic is covered in the live virtual class.
All right, Harsh, any suggestions here?
Yes, can you please screen share once? I will allow you the access.
No, I think you need to go to the assessment, I think, and then you should be able to click it on the right.
Yes,
so don't click on a live class, go to the assessment, I believe. Or no, even you just go, basically I was able to go into the course one, and then after you go in there, I think, so click on the, yeah, I was able to go in there. Let me see, I was trying to figure out how do I, oh, self-learning, there you go.
Yeah.
Self-learning, and then the right column should pop up, and then you should be able to click on the orientation there.
I clicked on self-learning, it shows me this. Where do I go?
Oh, sorry, you're in the enterprise security. I don't know. Yeah, so I think that's a different
Go
boot
down a
camp.
little bit further. Right now, you're in UCI because you have both. I remember this. So go
Ah,
out of that
yes.
one.
My bad.
Yeah, it's okay. I remember doing this with you,
Where is it?
Arthur.
There it is. Yeah,
So there we
there
go.
it is.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now you got it. He's just special. He gets two.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay,
There.
let's see if it
Cool.
works.
Yep, and then get into the orientation and you should be able to access it. Any other questions? Let's see.
Oh, that, yes.
Yes,
So
scroll
make sure I
down
have
a little
everything
bit.
correct.
If you scroll down a little, it should show the document. Let's see. I don't know how far you have to scroll to get the document. Harsh, do you know that answer?
Sorry, Scarlett. What
No,
was the
actually, it's under lesson 2. So you gotta go back to the right column and then click on lesson 2 to see that. There, click on the lesson 2.
All right, man. I can't see you, but next time I have a question, I'm gonna call on you because it sounds like you know
Yeah,
this
yeah.
platform pretty well. Awesome.
On the right page?
All right, and if you, oh no, I think
Just scroll down a little bit.
cybersecurity competencies.
I think you're not on orientation. Click on the 2.3 orientation first. There you go.
Nice.
Woo, go
Okay, here.
men.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Min, as well. Any other questions before we start the breakout rooms? And Harsh, is there a way we could create the breakout rooms without assigning the host and co-hosts?
No, if you want, you have to be co-host for breakout room.
Okay, so we get assigned to breakout rooms as well?
Yes, you can assign breakout room. You can do that.
All
Harsh,
right,
can you
well,
make me a
let's-
co-host as well?
You are already a co-host, Starlight.
Oh, awesome.
All right, I'm going to try and create these breakout rooms.
I can
If
make
you-
the
if-
breakout rooms. No worries.
Oh, okay.
Starlight does everything, don't worry.
How many rooms do you guys want? 4, 5?
I usually assign it so that there's about 4 to 5 participants in a group.
Sounds
Let's
good.
go with about 6 rooms in that case.
We could hear you now, Tony. Awesome.
Yay, Tony.
Yeah. I think for whatever reason, when I share my screen, it's muting me. And so when I'm not sharing it, I'll be able to speak at the moment until we get past that. But when I'm sharing my screen, it's automatically stopping me from being able to speak.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Okay.
Do you have it on mute, like your screen?
As far as I know, I've tried going through and unmuting everything. And then when I share my screen, it just places me on mute.
Okay, we have rooms. Although ironically, I think I put Harsh in a room.
Me,
Let's
can you
see.
guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We still have a couple more students that haven't joined their rooms. Let's see.
Oh, it doesn't
Neil.
assign it manually or automatically?
It did, it said, would you join the room? But sometimes people, like right now, like we have 2 Leonards, I think. Just gonna, okay. We could also create our own room. That's what we did at the last cohort, but this works. Let's see.
So Nelmira, Leonard, and Justin, Fen, Rui.
Fan rules. That one is also in room 2. So I think that one's a double, right? Because it's showing that you're in room 2 as well. I think he is.
I see his video though, so I think he's still
Yeah.
here.
Very concentrated.
Oh, Harsh is not here. Okay. I'm still trying to figure out how to share screen because every time I say share
let's
screen, it
see.
says like I need to allow browser
let's see.
access to screen recording.
Oh, that's a setting in your Google then, wouldn't it? It's something that you probably disallowed it, like you put no in the past. So maybe go into, let's see, how techie can I be? So are you on Chrome?
I am.
Okay, so it says at the top right, click more settings, click privacy and security.
Mhm.
Click site settings, camera or microphone.
Oh, okay. I see live class simplylearn.com. Let me see if
And I always suggest going through these on your Zoom account just to make life a lot easier because doing it on Chrome is a little more difficult.
okay.
And then Tony, for yours, it says, make sure you aren't muted on the website that you're currently sharing or any websites that are on that one or on that window.
I will double check and see if that's what's happening.
This just gave me like all the answers if it worked. Did that help? Oh, Tony, did you disappear again?
I'm going to go ahead and try and see if I can share my screen right here and see if we can be able to get past what was happening.
Okay. Try talking. Well, right now it's showing you're muted. Okay, now talk. No. Hey, Justin, I see that your hand is raised. Do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Real quick. So we're going to be in our breakout rooms and we're just going to work on the first part of the assignment, the group resume.
Yes. And then we'll bring you back in a little bit to talk about it. Is that right, Sean? Since Tony can't talk, or can Tony talk now? There we go. I see a nod.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. But it'll like
Sorry.
alert us when we're supposed to come back over here.
Yes, it'll kick you guys out
Yeah.
soon. I'm gonna close it in a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, back to Tony's thing. Ugh. It says exit, rejoin, and restart. I don't think we want to do that right now. Prefer not. Sean, is it working for you?
No, so I'm gonna have to quit and reopen. So I'll be right back.
Okay. Zoom has been a treat. And I used to be a teacher, so I used to do the entire pandemic on Zoom, and there's so many issues that are on Zoom lately. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna look up mic issues when sharing on Zoom.
All right, how about now? Are
Oh,
you guys able to see my
I
screen?
hear
and me?
you. Yes,
All
both.
right, excellent.
Woohoo!
All right, so we
What'd
found a
you
way
do?
past that.
How
So
you
when
did
I was
that, Tony?
sharing my screen, on the options for which screen to share, it was already check marked share tab audio. And I guess I'm not supposed to do that because the moment I unchecked it, now it was able to go ahead and continue with me being unmuted like I am here in our Zoom chat stuff, and then show the screen that I'm trying to share. So that was it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad we figured something out.
Yes.
So the email which I sent you, it doesn't work, right? You were not getting the option which I had shared to you.
Correct. That option was not showing up on the screen that I was sharing.
Now it's working. I'm happy. What about Sean? Sean, can you present your screen or not?
Did Sean get back on? Okay. Now there's two
Yeah,
Seans.
I'm gonna try it now.
Sean has
I
a
don't know.
shadow image of himself.
There's a couple of learners that have that right now. Like there was 4 Leonards at one point. I think now it's back to 1, so that's good. We're getting there.
To be honest with you, Starlight, I can't see all the learners at once. What Sean was saying, na, that he is not able to see all the learners at one screen. I'm also not
Wait,
able
you
to
can see all of them?
who had shared the screen? Sean, is it you?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Sean, amazing, dude.
Yes.
What a view you had presented. We
Look
could
at
see
us
all the learners at
go.
once. Amazing.
Nice. Yeah, Harsh, you were saying earlier that you're able to see the entire class. How do I do that? That really helps me out.
You are doing that, right? We can see that all the 4 is in one screen.
Yeah, but when
all
he
the-
shares
right
his
now, it's
screen, it'll show like a bar. At least it does with me. Like I can send you a snip of what it looks like, Harsh, at least from my perspective. It's like the shared screen, the group of people, and then participant / whatever else. Here, where do I want to put this? I'll add you to this one. See if I can add you.
real quick, is it Joe Burt? Jalbert? Do you need to be added to the
Yes.
breakout room? Okay.
Hi.
Let's see.
Hi, sorry, I was having some technical difficulties.
No, that's okay. Were you already in a room or did you just join?
I literally just joined.
Perfect. Just put you in a room. We're working on our group resumes. So when you go into the group, just talk to them and say, hey, what are we doing? And they'll be able to explain. It's super fast.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay.
Couple things I have a question on. So on participants, mine shows up as Sean.Ho at Full Stack Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
You can rename
Yeah, you
it.
could also rename yourself.
Oh, okay. Because before it was saying Sean Ha, and then I'm just trying to understand. Okay, rename. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, so
there you
go. Sean.
Yeah, you might want to ask the learners to do the same so that we don't have like, I think one dude's name on Slack is literally like Hellshock. So might want to know his real name.
Yeah. And then can you make me co-host again, Harsh?
No.
Real
The
quick.
initial
So let's
shock.
say, yeah, let's say we have more people join,
Mhm.
and And you're saying I could only see 6 on my screen, as you guys can see here, or will the boxes get smaller?
Honestly, I can only see one. I can only see one. At least you can see 6 at a time. I can only see one.
No. Yeah, the most
Oh, so
I
you
can
can't
see is
see the whole
6.
class.
No, I think you are very right. Yeah, but while teaching, you have to see all the learners at one screen, not to do a better learning. I will raise this issue with the team. Being honest with you, Starlight, can you see all the participants in one screen?
No, I just asked the previous trainers, the ones that are in the February cohort, if there was ever a way that they could see all the learners at once while a screen was shared, but we'll see what they said. I don't think so.
See, Zoom give that option. I think we have to enable it before starting the session. In next session, I will keep that in check and we'll do that.
I've never
Ron,
seen
it's a
it
promise from my
when
end.
you share a screen. I've seen it when you don't share a screen. You could also, very technically, you could have 2 of you and then just present your screen with one. And then
2 more people had joined, right?
I don't know. It's a mystery. Okay, let's see. Who is here? I see. Okay. Cameron is here. Cameron, did you just hop on?
Yeah.
Okay, we are working on our group resume, so I am going to put you in a group. Just get a little caught up with them, get a little friendly, and we will call everyone back to the main room shortly.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Sean and Tony, just let me know whenever you want me to call everyone back, because I don't know how long this takes. I'm not gonna lie.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to set up a couple. I'm just trying to log in for multiple accounts. Well, that's weird.
Okay, so one of the trainers said that they're able to do it because they have 2 screens. So they put the learner on one screen and then they share their other. So let me see, because I have 2 screens. Let me see if I can do this. So,
Let me stop share.
well, no, the hard part is doing it when you're sharing. I can do it right now. Like I can see everyone right now. I just can't see everyone when someone's sharing. So wait, let me see if I can share my screen. Not that we should really. Let me see, what can I put that's sharing that looks good enough? That's not. There we go. I'll do this. That looks good. Okay, so I'll share this screen. This only shows 6. Of course, there's only 6 of us in here, so that might also have a factor. We'll have to test it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm sharing this screen, and then on my second screen, goodness, on my second screen, I have in full blast all of the learners, but there's only 5 of us right now. So I don't know if that would make a difference.
Okay. How were you able to do that? How
I have 2
like,
different monitors.
Well, yeah. So I have 2 as well. So I'm just trying to understand how you did that.
So I went
yeah.
I went to share screen, and then it offers you to put to share a different screen than the one that you're currently using. And so I'm sharing my second screen, but Zoom is on my first screen. So then I can go into the video. It won't show the shared screen, but it'll show all the participants because I clicked the little 6 thumbnail thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
That's the best I got for now.
Yeah, we could try that.
You'll have to let me know if it
Remove
works.
this.
Let me. How do I get out of it? Stop shit. There we go. So that might work.
I'll try that when we bring everybody back.
Okay. Do you know how long you wanted this session to be. It looks like one person's talking in room 1. It looks like no one's talking in room 2. Room 3, people are coming back. Room 4, no talking. In room 5, no talking. So do we want to bring everyone back?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's been
Okay.
plenty of time.
Okay. So we're gonna close all the rooms. Everyone knows that they're gonna leave now. It's back to you.
Okay. Just for Starlight, this is for us, but I see 9 screens. But is there a way I could see like the whole thing, or is that not possible?
I think that's all that's
Okay.
joined so far. So in 18 seconds, we'll have more people. Right
Well,
now,
I have, like,
see.
I see like the
6,
arrows,
12.
like I see the panels. You see 12? Oh.
So if you go to view and you type gallery on the top right corner.
Hello,
Yeah,
everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
I got kicked out of my group. Well, not my session timed out.
That's
Oh
okay.
yeah, we closed out. Yeah.
We wanted everyone to come back.
Awesome. Welcome back. Let's see. So Starlight, you saying you see 12 people in your screen?
Now I see a lot more. I see 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, which is the most I think you can see on a screen.
Okay. You have to show me how to do that next time.
And
I
that's
only
in
see
gallery
9.
view.
Yeah, I'm in gallery view too, but it gives me like different pages. So I have 4 pages of 9 boxes.
Strange. I also do the hide non-video participants, and that gives you. That'll give you 12. I'm watching. Oh, there we go. Look, we got more now. Did Irving just leave? I got really excited.
Spotlight for everyone.
Okay, there we go. Oh, I like that Irving and Tony have the same background. Good choice. This is what I want my office to look like. So we're gonna pretend that that's what my office looks like.
Okay. We'll figure out the videos later on, but we could continue on here. Give me 1 second. Let me try the other one. So let me try to share this time, see if this will work. Can you guys see my screen?
I see that it says that we are viewing your screen, but to me it looks black.
Yeah, same here.
It's trying.
Same.
Well, I thought we were able to see my screen earlier.
We were able to
can
see
no
your
longer
screen
see
earlier,
it.
which is-
Are you using dual monitors or you have a single monitor?
I'm using 2 monitors. Well, yeah. So we were basically troubleshooting when you guys are in your breakout rooms, and I'm sharing my other window than the one that the Zoom is on, but I guess it's not working anymore. Let me stop sharing real quick. All right. We'll continue our troubleshooting on our next breakout session. But Tony, you want to share your screen real quick? Awesome. So hopefully you guys learn a little bit more about your group. Before we continue, does anyone want to share any of the common goals that you guys have for this bootcamp?
we had on our group, it was Ryan, Wilson, Min, Joel, and Singh, and it was ours was diversity and IT knowledge.
Awesome. Any other goals or? Sorry, who was that, by the way? Sorry, I
Oh,
literally
sorry.
just
I
see.
was-
Sorry. Is that Ryan? Was that you?
Yeah, sorry about that. Something's going on with my computer here.
No, it's it's probably on my end because I literally just see my face and then I'm trying to figure out who's talking. But okay, cool.
If you
Anyone
use
else?
the raise hands, you'll be able to, the instructors will be able to see a little bit better, just for the future.
Yeah, hopefully I could figure out a way to see all of you in one page. So if you're talking, I should be able to catch who's talking. But until then, yeah, if you could raise your hand. But thank you for sharing, Ryan. Anyone else want to share one of the goals that they went over?
We could always be able to go ahead and select some at random in case there are no volunteers. But I do notice that what is this? Justin and Jay Lynch. So I'm going to go ahead and let Sean choose which one he wants to be able to go ahead and have go first.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, thank you. For our goals, a lot of my team said that they wanted to break into the industry. I know in my company, I'm trying to transition right now into a more tech-based role.
Awesome. Cool. And then Jay Lynch, 24.
So yeah, so the goal I have, well, for a group that I agreed upon, basically just trying to acquire a set of skills, basically just to make us highly valuable and sought after by many organizations.
Yeah, and just to recapture some of your comments, cybersecurity is one of those fields where, there are a lot of people with prior experiences and backgrounds who break into cybersecurity. So we have a lot of folks from IT. We have some from software engineering or other technical roles, even sales or customer supporting or customer facing roles that jump over to cybersecurity. In my previous cohorts, we had a lot of medical. We even had law enforcement and HR and admin that wants to learn more about cybersecurity and get into the career field. So whatever background you have, I think it's as long as you have the will to learn, you'll be more than sufficient to break into this field and to learn cybersecurity. And to, I think, Ryan's point, you will get exposed to a lot of diverse content, right? We're gonna, as we're going through, we're gonna go over the curriculum in just a bit, but we do cover a lot in terms of starting off with, fundamentals in Linux, programming in Python, a little bit of bash scripting. Then we get into the security concepts, then get into blue team and red team hands-on. So all of these goals are good goals and objectives, and we'll be going over them later in our cohort. Okay. So Tony, if you could go into the next slide, please. All right, so this is a high-level overview of your Simply Learn community, right? So you in the center is the learner, and you have 5 different pillars here. Obviously, you have myself and Tony, the instructors. We will be providing a lot of demo and hands-on instructions of new concepts every time we meet, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. You also have Learner Success Manager, which is Isabel. You also have the curriculum and resources within your LSM. You have the Program Manager, which is our Starlight, and then learning, teams, and peers. Out of these, I found from my previous cohorts that your peer group is one of the strongest community during and even after the cohort is finished. I have a lot of my previous cohort students that create separate channels, like in Discord, or they keep in touch through emails or just their phones, where they help each other to find jobs or to kind of help them better network. So as I said earlier, your participation is a key. Make sure you engage with one another. We will be doing a lot of group projects as well. So it's good to kind of, get close and make, build your relationship before we get to that stage, right? And also after the cohort finishes, we will be available, but not for that long afterwards, but your peers will be, right? So just make sure that you have 30 other students in here that you could make your networks with and to build your connections. So do work on those as throughout the cohort, but also know that you have other resources within your community to help you learn and get into cybersecurity, right?
I'm going to go ahead and jump in on that. So one thing I do like to point out, I've had many years of experience of teaching in general. So one thing I like to be able to let my students know is, obviously, when you guys are having any problems, when there's any difficulties or any questions, myself and Sean are going to be some of the best resources you have to be able to address that, right? Because that's what we're here for. We're here to be able to go ahead and be able to answer your questions and make sure you guys learn this material. But we're human and there's only 2 of us. And as we can see, we have about 30 students in this cohort right now. So as Sean kind of pointed out, it is great to be able to go ahead and use each other as a resource, because some of you are going to pick up this material very quick, right? It's going to be stuff that you're just going to be able to absorb it. And so you are able to help out those that are going to need a little bit more time, right? And vice versa. There are going to be some things that some people will pick up quicker than others. So maybe you might really understand when we were going over the Linux information that you're going to be able to pick that up and somebody else needs help with that, right? But then maybe when it comes to our scripting portions where, like, let's say we're learning Python, maybe that's going to give you a little bit of difficulty. And one of the others that needed your help when we were going over the Linux concepts, maybe they just really pick up on that Python stuff, right? And so in general, there's going to be, chances are, somebody as one of your cohort classmates that they're already either they know what to do or they've experienced that problem, or they were able to get ahead on something and they're able to help you out a lot faster than necessarily just myself or Sean, right? So always reach out to us if you guys do have any questions or you guys are having any issues. If you're having any technical problems, of course, we can reach out to somebody like Harsh or maybe Starlight, depending on what it is, right? And we'll try and be able to help you out as well. But as Sean was pointing out, you guys have an excellent resource in each other. So always make sure to be able to go ahead and communicate with each other and get used to being able to know each other, network with each other. Because as Sean pointed out, after this boot camp is done, chances are you guys are going to be going out into the industry. Some of you guys are going to get jobs quicker than others, or even years down the road, right? Somebody might have a job that they're working for at a company that you want to then work at as well. And if you guys maintain those connections, if you guys keep that network open, you'll be able to go ahead and communicate with them, and then possibly something can happen there, right? So what I would recommend is if you guys have a LinkedIn profile, start communicating with each other, right? Start talking to each other on Slack and stuff, and start exchanging those LinkedIn profiles, start adding each other. And if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, create one and start doing that, right? So that way you guys can start building up that network with each other. And then as Sean has been indicating, for the most part, as we're going through this boot camp, we're going to be here for a number of months. And so it will be nice to be able to go ahead and see your faces and get to know each other. So if you haven't turned on your camera, and if you're in a good place to do so, right? As Sean pointed out, one of the students earlier seemed to be driving, right? So if you're at home, if you're safe, if you're not driving, if you're able to turn on your camera, please do so we can be able to get to know each other, right? We can be able to go ahead and see you, we can get to know you, and your cohort classmates are able to get to know you as well. One last thing before I go ahead and end my little spiel here. You'll notice that you have your names listed on your icon or as your participants right there. you can be able to, in case it's just showing just your email, you can always be able to go ahead and click on your profile there and go to edit and then rename yourself so that we can be able to show your name. This will help both Sean and myself and your classmates to be able to go ahead and see what your name is, not what your email is. So you can start putting names to faces, right? So as we're going throughout all of this, keep in mind what your goals are, keep in mind kind of what we discussed, and realize that you have a lot of resources here, right? As you go through the stuff that we're showing you tonight, as we're kind of getting you guys used to what's going to be happening, make use of the resources that we provide. Make use of our program manager, right? Make use of Starlight, make use of Harsh, make use of Isabel, make use of Sean and myself, make use of each other. And of course, all the articles that we're going to be sharing with you, all the resources that we're going to have for you guys to be able to read, make use of all of that so that way you guys can be able to make the most of this boot camp. Otherwise, what was the point of coming to this boot camp and being a part of it if you're not making the most of it, right? So anytime you guys have any issues, reach out to each other, reach out to us, make sure you guys are using the most of everything that's provided.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. But yeah, so I think that's a good segue from what Tony said. Use the power of your peers. Again, because there's a lot of concepts and a lot of different materials that we're going to go over, some of you will succeed or be better off than others in some of the curriculum, right? So we had students who did really well in Linux that struggled in Python and vice versa. And having the power of your peers to support one another will go a long ways, right? So make sure you are communicating well with one another, helping one another out. Obviously not giving out answers, but if you have questions, we're going to go over Slack and other resources later during the orientation. But Slack will be a good place for you guys to ask questions. If you guys, obviously what Tony said, if you guys have any, direct questions to myself or Tony, you could send us a message, but if not, you could send a question to the cohort channel. If either myself and Tony get to it first, we'll go ahead and answer it. If one of you guys know the answer to it, talking to you, Min, right? If you have problems with the browser Zoom, maybe he's the one to ask here. But anyways, that will be a great resource for you guys to ask and get answers, right? Next slide, Tony. The bootcamp experience. Starlight, is this was this done by everyone in class from the previous cohort, or was this done in the breakout session?
I believe majority have gone through the bootcamp experience.
Oh, in class, like together?
Let me see. Actually, no, I don't think they've done this part yet.
So I say let's go ahead and go back to the breakout rooms, and then let's go ahead and what we're going to have you guys do is let me go ahead and once again show you where we're going to be pulling this from. So going back to our learning management system, our LMS, one of the other things we're going to have there, let me see. I have to make sure that I share this correctly so you guys are able to hear me as well. All right. So hopefully you guys are able to hear me as well. So if we go down a little bit further from where we did our activity 1A, we're going to see activity 1B, the bootcamp experience. So similar thing, we're going to have a link there where you guys can be able to go ahead and copy that resource. And it's going to ask you a few questions. So let me go ahead, I'll click there, and then I'll share that screen as well. So once we go ahead and go to that screen, I have to keep remembering to share it correctly so that way you guys can hear me. All right, so hopefully you guys are able to hear me. So we see here, once we make that copy, we're gonna go ahead and see the document you guys are gonna be working at in this exercise. And so here is gonna be a number of questions that we want you to be able to kind of answer, right? So we start off with this. This is gonna be kind of what we call a Jamboard. And up at the top, we can be able to go ahead and go to the next frame. So here we have a few questions. So for this first one, for example, what are your assumptions about the boot camp dynamic, right? And we give a few examples of what we mean. So when it comes to the boot camp, what are your assumptions about how the schedule for this is going to be? What about the pacing for the materials and the topics that we're going to be going over? How rigorous is this going to be? And so on, right? We have another question on the next frame. So if you click to the next one, we see what are the benefits of this dynamic? So what are the benefits of going through something like a boot camp and the dynamics we have with that versus a more traditional kind of like a 4-year college or something, right? And then we have for the next one, what are the challenges of this boot camp dynamic? So when you're going through a boot camp, what can be challenging about it, right? What are some issues that might be a little bit something that we have to overcome? And then, of course, the next one, we see what can you do to overcome those challenges that you're anticipating, right? And then finally, our last question that we have here, sharing with the cohort, what do you anticipate being the biggest challenge, and then how can we plan, anticipate, and overcome that? So in a little bit, I'm going to suggest we go back into the breakout rooms. We're going to have you go back with your groups. Go ahead and get that document. Again, it's going back to our LMS, right? Just right below where we saw what we did before, and share these questions, discuss these questions. Hopefully you're able to work out those audio issues. If not, use the chat when you're in the breakout rooms, right? And then answer these questions. And then in about maybe 15 minutes, we'll come back, take a look at what your answers are so we can be able to go ahead and see what do you guys feel, what you guys are assuming about this boot camp style, right? And what are going to be some ways that we can be able to go ahead and run through and address these so that by the time we're done with this exercise, we have a pretty good understanding of how the boot camp is going to go, what's kind of expected of us, how quickly it's going to be, what are going to be some challenges that are different from our normal like 4-year college, and then how we can overcome those challenges. So that way we got a clear picture of what we're going to be doing for the next 6 months together. So with that, are there any questions or is there anything you want to add to that, Sean?
No, I think you covered it really well, Tony. Starlight, do you want me to try to create the breakout rooms, or is it already created?
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Oh, we can keep the same rooms we had. Do you want to keep the same rooms, or would you prefer to switch it up?
I think it'll be excellent. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, let's
go ahead and keep them the same.
Keep them the same? Okay, and then I'm going to create a room for us this time.
All right, excellent. So while Starlight is doing that for us, again, once the breakout rooms are available and you guys join them, just go and open up that document, discuss it with those of you guys that are together in your breakout rooms. We'll have you guys go ahead and work on it for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll pull everyone back to kind of see what are your assumptions, what do you guys feel about the boot camp, what are your expectations, and how we can address any challenges that we might have.
Okay, I hope I put everyone in the same group. Some people were showing up a little weird. So here we go. I'll stay in this room. Arthur, do you have a room?
Oh, dude. Yeah, first timer. But when I first logged in, I was like, what is this? You know where Harsh is?
I think he's still over in room 6 where we were. But we wouldn't be able to move into somewhere else or do anything else until we get back our co-host privileges. So
Yeah. All right. Let me Slack you with something real quick.
sure.
came in and left. A loss. Let me try to join room 6 again and then call
Harsh over.
Harsh. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Sounds good.
And I was muted this whole time. Well, Tony, you here? So I was basically saying Harsh. I think Harsh was AFK, but I did message Starlight to come back. So hopefully we could close out the breakout rooms. Min, how are ya? Jay Wong, how are ya?
Hey, sorry, I'm joining a little late. I have a little bit of a break here at work, so I was going to try and listen to whatever I can.
John, nice to meet
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Hey,
I got
meet
your
you.
message.
Cool. Yeah, I felt so bad about having to miss so many of these first ones, but yeah.
No. It was you didn't really miss much. It was us trying to troubleshoot Zoom and audio and sharing capabilities. But anyways, all of this will be recorded, so you should be able to watch it after about 24 or 48 hours. But yeah,
Cool, awesome.
I think right now we did start breakout session, which is like small group exercises, just to kind of break ice and for people to get to know each other. We haven't really delved much, into anything really. So you didn't really miss much, but we can't really assign you to a breakout room just yet because we're still waiting for our host capability. So once everybody joins back in, you'll be able to jump into the next exercise with the rest of the group.
Cool. I'm not sure if, well, fingers crossed, I can participate in that. Because I'll turn my ones around right now so I can turn this on. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm working in this studio right now, but my supervisor stepped out. He sits right there normally. So I was like, I'm gonna log in. So he gets back and he's got another meeting in another room. So
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Well, that's very
just
cool. Is that like the studio?
Yeah, this is Television City by
Nice.
Big Grove in LA. So it's where CBS does all their mixes and stuff.
Very cool. I was gonna say the same thing. Very, very cool.
It's cool, but like they're like starting to outsource all this these items. And so yeah, hence I'm like, I should get back into something more technical where I can not be outsourced.
Yeah. Well, you're in the right boot camp.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Pleasure to
Um,
meet you guys. Again, apologies for
Likewise.
missing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I wish I had this same Zoom feature earlier on. Really wanted to get to know more about each of the students. Basically, we had a little discussion on where you're based off, why you trying to get into cybersecurity, what your technical background is, stuff like that. And people were typing in the chat, but I couldn't read any of it. But now I'm missing all of it because I kept leaving and joining the Zoom back and forth.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I could answer those questions if you want.
sure. I mean, I heard Grove, California, which I've been to, but yeah, I'm interested to hear what your background is and why you want to get into cybersecurity while we wait for the rest of the class here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, I started actually in a more technical field. Like I graduated in 2004 from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, with a degree in electrical engineering and computer engineering. And I wanted to work for Boeing Defense for a couple years. Did some R&D there, ended up doing systems engineering there, and then I left because I was also I played the violin since I was 3, and I started playing guitar when I was like 13. So then I got the opportunity to tour with the band and was like getting into music, and I moved out to LA to do more music stuff. Did some studio work, and I'm always catching the end of all these things. Like I wanted to be like a session guitar player, and just as I was getting into that stuff started getting outsourced and like becoming obsolete because digital recording means we can fix stuff at such a higher fidelity level. So I learned how to do that, and then I got into post-production, which is what I do now for film and TV in audio. So mixing movies, TV, whatever. And yeah, so that's also started going away. And I was like, I should jump back into something more technical, where I have a higher maybe say in my staying around, because even now, like I was laid off on January 20th, and the same company asked me back to fill in for them. But it's
That happened to
like,
me.
yeah, it's fun
Got
stuff,
laid
right?
off in November and got asked if I wanted my job back like a month ago. And I was like, you guys are too late.
Yeah, so strange. But yeah, just wanting to be part of a field again where things are growing instead of shrinking. And I miss
Yeah.
kind of the more technical challenges as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely understandable.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And
Are we ready to close the breakout rooms?
I think so.
oh yes,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. I just saw that.
Okay, yeah. I think Harsh was.
I was interested in all the conversations. I wanted to hear about the movie producing.
Oh, I got your Slack, so hit me up whenever.
Yes. We'll like do a little featured session where you teach us.
I'll gladly swap for cybersecurity info.
Cybersecurity for movie deals.
Yeah.
They have 22 seconds to get back to us.
What happens in 22 seconds?
Everyone gets kicked out. Now it's 12 seconds. And then they all have to come back here and see us.
They'll be kicked out of their breakout rooms.
Yes.
Ooh.
Is it bad that I had coffee and now I have both? It's also 10 o'clock here.
Okay, now I see a lot more screens on my
There you
Zoom.
go.
Yeah, and I see a lot of black screens. So if you guys haven't turned on your webcam, please go ahead and do so. I'm just gonna call out names: Irving,
Jambos,
the one who has the cool
Abel.
background.
Okay, Antonio, Abel. Yes.
Ooh,
And
I
I'm
like
sorry
that
if I'm butchering your
hamster.
names. I think going forward, I'm gonna try to call on you at the beginning of class just to get to know you. Since I couldn't get to read the comment earlier today, I'm very interested in your background, what got you interested in cybersecurity and all that sort. So if you're just coming back, welcome back. If you haven't, I don't know if you guys have like, if you guys don't have webcams, but if you do, please go ahead and turn those on so I could. What we're trying to do is memorize your names with the faces. And again, it's going to be a 6-month long cohort, so we're going to have to get comfortable here.
Pajamas
so-
are welcome. Can always
Yes.
wear pajamas. That's fine. We come as you are.
Yeah.
Irving, I noticed you said that you're eating. That's fine as well, because again, we are going in essentially, if you're on the Pacific coast like myself, we're essentially going through dinner time for most of us, right? So if you guys are comfortable with showing your camera while you're eating, it is perfectly fine to be eating while you're here, okay? So don't feel like you have to turn off your camera because you're eating. If you're fine with that, keep it on so that way we can still see who you are, see what you're doing. If you don't have a webcam, some of you guys have mentioned you guys don't have a webcam at the moment. As soon as you're able to, then once you get your webcam, make sure that it's on so we can be able to see you. And of course, Arthur, he says that he's driving. Be safe, focus on driving. You don't have to turn on your camera if you're driving at the moment.
I attended a meeting one time with my phone on the side while I was driving, and they could see me, but of course I wasn't looking, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I am dedicated, but I'm not going to look at you."
Nice. All right, Tony, you ready to continue the slides?
Let's go ahead and see what they had for their answers for our breakout rooms sort of exercises. So if you want, Sean, go ahead and we can take that away from there. What we want to do is at the moment, if there's any volunteers for what did you guys come up with? Again, we saw those questions, right? There's about 5 different questions that we had there, mainly about dealing with what is it that you guys are assuming that the boot camp experience is going to be like? What is it that you guys are feeling as far as like the pacing is going to be, the scheduling? What are some challenges that you guys expect that you guys are going to be having? And then what do you guys want to be able to do, or how do you feel we can approach those challenges so that way we can be able to overcome them? So with that, any volunteers on how you guys address those questions? All right, I see Justin. If you want, go ahead.
Hey. You want me to just run through all of them?
Yeah, let's go ahead and run through the answers you guys came up with.
Okay, perfect. So for the first one, what are the assumptions about the bootcamp dynamic? We said fast pace, lots of group work, lots of projects, lots of study time, lots of, just really grinding come these 3 hours. For the next one, what are the benefits of this dynamic? We said no time to waste, get positive outcomes very quickly, see results very quickly. So you hit that expert level very quickly. For the challenges, we said kind of the challenges of that. So being fast paced, it's easy to get behind. You have to focus for long periods of time at, for some people, not the most optimal time if you're going through lunch and dinner. And then just making sure you don't get behind in your work. And then what can you do to overcome the challenges you were anticipating? We said, don't procrastinate, communicate, reach out to your team, Google often, use ChatGPT. If you're a partier, put plans on hold, make sure you're making that appropriate study time for the weekend. And then the last one seemed pretty similar to the first one, or the second to last one. So I would just say the same answers we said for the last one. So just put plans on hold, Google often, study hard, maybe look up some coding or cybersecurity news articles if you're trying to just get more immersed in it. So that was our group.
Excellent answers, all of them. So a lot of good points there, right? Especially towards the end. So before I go ahead and ask for another volunteer, I'm going to go ahead and kind of jump on that last point that Justin was mentioning there, right? When we look at our resources, part of it is if you haven't already begun to do so, we're going to want to be able to go ahead and find places, reputable places, right, that have news areas related to cybersecurity or just tech in general, because things do change very quickly and there's always new things to learn. There's always new events that are happening. And so once we start going out into the industry, one of the things that employers and people in general look for is how well are you staying on top of things? How informed are you about what is currently happening in our cybersecurity world? So if you haven't started already, as you pointed out, start looking for those news areas, right? Those articles, where the reputable news sources that are going to keep us informed of what is happening in cybersecurity. So that way we can stay on top of things. All right, let's go ahead and look for another volunteer. So what other things or what other groups were you guys able to come up with as for your answers, and who wants to volunteer what you guys came up with?
Antonio has his hand up. Go ahead, Antonio.
Hey, good evening, everybody. How you doing? So I'll go off the first question. What are your assumptions about the boot camp dynamic? Someone said moves at a moderate pace. It's obviously cheaper than a 4-year degree. Rigor, moderately difficult, especially for novice learners. The boot camp may be broad in scope. We get to learn tools, practical applications, and theory. And not as crammed as a 3-month boot camp, but still fast paced. What are the benefits of this dynamic? It's easy to goal set when the next cohort is coming up. Less intense environment, casual conversations makes it easier to learn the subjects and topics. Highly interactive for hands-on learners. Less theory-based and more practical work. And depending on learning abilities, it can be picked up fairly easy and based on work experience. What are the challenges of the bootcamp dynamic? It requires self-discipline and to keep yourself accountable. Late nights for some of us, technical difficulties, finding time to study after working a full-time or part-time job. Work remote offers challenges to interact with the group, different time zones, and availability. What can you do to overcome challenges you're anticipating? Communicate schedule with family and friends, pre-plan study time, identify your personal challenges, communicate, interact with your peer group and instructors to overcome challenges, stay motivated and engaged. And last one, sharing with the cohort, what do you anticipate being the biggest challenge and how can we plan, anticipate, and overcome it? When I concern about hiring processes, just navigating through the hiring process at the end, all the different experiences that we have in here in our cohort, skill levels and learning styles, and remembering why you're in this course and staying motivated.
Excellent. Thank you. So definitely good answers there again as well. I would like to point out all the different challenges that were mentioned, right? Because that is going to be something that we want to be able to make sure that we're able to address. So as we pointed out, it is going to be that we're going to be here a lot of time, right? We're going to be here for 3 hours, 3 days out of the week. So 3 hours Monday, 3 hours Wednesday, 3 hours Thursday, right? And that is a lot of time. So as you pointed out, effective communication with friends and family, right? So letting your family know, like, hey, I know it's going to be a lot of time right now. It's going to seem like it's going to be that I'm very busy for the next few months, but it's only for the next 6 months, right? It's only for a small fraction of the time moving forward. And then we'll be able to pass the boot camp and be able to move on, right? So letting them know that, hey, I need some help with this. I need some dedication. I need some understanding, and letting your friends know as well, right? So that way they know that this is something you're taking seriously and that you're going to be addressing this and you're going to be focusing on this for the next 6 months. It's not forever, right? It's not going to be, in the grand scheme of things, the longest thing you've ever done, but it is going to take a lot of time within the next few months. And so if they can be able to kind of be mindful and respectful of that, right? So that way you can be able to go ahead and focus on your class. at the same time with the family that you have at home. If there's anything that needs to be taken care of, right? Like maybe if there's laundry that needs to be done, or if there's dinner that needs to be made. If while you're in class, if somebody else could be able to handle that or take care of that, right? Again, it's not going to be forever. It's just going to be for the short term. But doing something like that and letting your family know what's kind of your expectations of, hey, this is time I'm setting aside, time I'm dedicating for this class. That'll make a world of difference that everybody knows that, right? And everybody's on the same page with that. So definitely some things like that we want to be able to go ahead and be mindful and respectful towards. Let's go ahead, and if there's one more volunteer that we can be able to get, again, just addressing what are the answers and the stuff that you guys came up with relation to these questions. So is there anybody else that wishes to volunteer what you guys got? All right, excellent. Dylan, I see your hand is raised. Let's go ahead and go.
All right. That first question, assumptions, a lot of our answers were based around, it being a rigorous course, something that's fast paced, something that would give us hands-on experience with real world problems, as well as something that would start basic but gradually ramp up in its complexity. Benefits that it allows for, at least in this format, remote attendance, recorded sessions. It's just huge for going back and looking at things, review, access to resources and help, made, let's see here, having greater flexibility with your attendance, accessibility and convenience, and just, having a program that's made by professionals and for people with busy schedules. What are the challenges of the boot camp dynamic? That it would require, to really have a deep dive into a wide range of knowledge. Having, some technical issues, Zoom, we're all dealing with, but also having those issues maybe with a fast-paced learning environment could make for some unique challenges to overcome. And then what can you do to overcome the challenges you're anticipating? A lot of us said, having to communicate with your cohort members. Like you guys said, having those peers is fantastic to work with. Just trying to absorb as much knowledge as possible, staying on top of what's happening, but also I think for people like myself who are starting in not really with any experience, having to play kind of catch up into, well, here's my fundamentals, learning all that, and getting to the point where you can become a professional is a little daunting. So, even in my small breakout group, we had a few guys with IT experience, for many years, who had already given me some resources like Python, or Linux, and these coding languages, which to me are, was really tough. They already were shooting some resources at me, a coding academy for anyone else who's also kind of, pardon my French, crapping the bed a little bit about learning those things. I was told Code Academy for that, free resource, by the way. And then again, kind of trying to, as best you can, overcoming challenges to ensure kind of a stable technical setup if you can, and just keep focused, patient, and like we just already went over, just communicating to everyone in your life kind of what's going on. And then the last question, what do you anticipate being the biggest challenge? Planning and anticipating and overcome it. I think I kind of shared the last two together there, but definitely just acquiring that niche knowledge, I think, sums it up the best.
All right, excellent. And thank you for that. So yeah, all excellent points that everybody has made throughout the entire night when we were going ahead and answering these questions. But yeah, as we saw, most of your assumptions are correct, right? This boot camp is going to be pretty fast paced. We're going to throw a lot of information your way. a lot every day, right? So if you miss a day, unfortunately, it does happen, right? Again, we do want your attendance to be here. We did say in one of the earlier slides, you should be here at about 65%, if not more, and definitely it should be more, right? So you guys are able to soak in that knowledge. But what's going to end up happening is if you do miss a day, you're missing a lot of information because we are going to be going pretty fast paced because we want to cover a lot of things in just 6 months, right? And a lot of these topics, I mean, if you were to go to a 4-year degree, right? If you were to go to a 4-year university or college, a lot of the topics we're going to be covering within these 6 months can take an entire degree just on its own with some of these tools, right? Or an entire class that's going to be taking multiple months just on some of these things by themselves. But we're going to go ahead and give you the practical hands-on application of a lot of these things, right? How we can be able to use them, what are the tools that are being used in the industry. And so we're going to toss all these things at you as we go through it. So because of that, it is fast paced. There is a lot, it is a ton of information. So you are going to need to be able to make use of your resources to go back and review, right? Sometimes we're going to go through things and you're going to say afterwards, what the heck did we just go through, right? And so it'll be useful to go back and watch the recordings once they're available 24 to 48 hours later, or to go back and look at the review notes that are there for you to read beforehand, right? Or as we're going ahead and doing our lectures or discussing things in class, make notes of your own, right? Because a lot of the time, if you have any questions or if we're getting to a more advanced topic, myself or Sean, we might be like, okay, what did your guys' notes say about this topic when we discussed it last, right? So you guys should be making notes. You guys should be writing down your stuff. And even though the materials that we have that you guys can read through, the links that we're going to be sharing, the stuff that materials that we're going to be putting to, like, let's say Slack or other areas, so you guys have access to it, they will be there for you throughout the entirety of the boot camp, but nothing is going to make a difference like writing down your notes, right? Because now you're hearing it, you might be reading it or seeing it, and then you're actually physically writing it out or doing something similar. That's making it so your body retains that a lot more, right? And that's usually what makes it stick. So make sure you're taking your notes so that way you guys can be able to do that. Now, the beauty of it, as you guys, a lot of you guys put in your answer, is that you don't have to know everything already, right? You don't have to be very technical. You don't have to have that IT experience. Both Sean and myself, we're going to go from day one and show you guys the basics and take you all the way to the advanced stuff, right? So whether you're already an expert in some of these areas, or if you have no experience whatsoever, we're going to make sure that by the time we're done with this boot camp, you'll have that knowledge, you'll have that understanding that you need to have, right? And if you feel that we're going too fast, or if you have any questions, or if you're experiencing any difficulties, just let Sean know, just let myself know. We'll be more than willing to be able to go ahead and slow it down if necessary, or to be able to take some extra time with you to be able to make sure you're understanding it, right? And for those of you that are having a sort of that, as was kind of said by Dylan, right? That crap the bed moment or something like that, right? Where your guys are experiencing when you're dealing with something like Python programming that you're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? How can I be able to do this? As Sean pointed out earlier with those slides, right, between our kind of resume, we do have years of experience in being able to go ahead and deal not just with the cybersecurity stuff, but when one of my other jobs that I work as, I'm literally an instructor, a professor of computer science. So I've been teaching programming in general for a number of years. So if you're having difficulty with the programming aspect, I'm more than, I understand what you're going through. I know what you mean, and I'm capable of being able to help you understand, right? So it is our personal job to make sure you have this level of understanding, that you're understanding not just the material and the concepts, but how to actually do it, right? So anytime that you feel that you need that extra help, you need that extra explanation or anything like that, make sure to let us know, so that, because it's literally our job that by the time you're done with this boot camp, you know what to do with these things, right? So anytime you feel that you need that extra assistance, let us know so we can be able to go ahead and do that. As far as when it comes to, again, our challenges, right? It is going to be a challenge on some of these stuff for extra resources that you might need. So as Dylan was pointing out, he already had some of his teammates there in his breakout room, kind of giving him these extra resources like Code Academy. And so definitely as we're going through our boot camp, right, when it comes to the tools we show you how to use, when it comes to some of these concepts or just things in general, there's going to be a lot of resources we might provide for you as well, or we might go ahead and show you, right? So We'll make sure to share those resources. We'll make sure to go ahead and give them to you. And if you know of any, or if your teammates know of any, feel free to share them with each other as well, right? So that way you guys can be able to go ahead and make the most of this. With that, Sean, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I know we're pretty close on time, but I do want to share one thing, which is I also put in the chat here, but family support. So I went through a similar program way back when. My wife also went through a boot camp, a different program, a software engineering program, but either or both of those times, when I was going through it, my wife was, we had a little baby as well, so she was going through a hard time doing basically everything while I was studying, and vice versa. When she was going through it, I had to watch the kids and do all the housework. It might not seem that bad now because we're not, introducing anything new. We're not throwing all these content at you, but it will get to a point where you will, or you may feel overwhelmed with all the content, with all the projects, and just everything in general with the full-time work. So just communicate with your family and your significant other, friends, let them know that you're going through this program and that you'll be very busy for the next 6 months and that you need all the support that you could get, and just get a buy-in, right? And then just let them know that for that 6 months, you need the dedicated time for class, dedicated time for homework, dedicated time for projects. Because if you're trying to navigate all of that with the full-time work and trying to convince your family members or friends, that you need more time, it could be pretty difficult. So just communicate early on, set expectations, not just for yourself, but people around you. So you guys are all on the same team. And yeah, I just want to get that point across because it was one of the hardest point for me and for my wife when both of us were going through it. So.
All right, so let's go back to our presentation. Hopefully you guys are able to go ahead and see my screen, so that way we can be able to go ahead and show that to you. And so the next thing we're going to go to is what we call our preflections, right? So normally we're used to reflections, which is kind of once things have already happened, thinking back on it, and then trying to be able to go ahead and meditate or gain something out of it, right? Here, we're going to do a preflection. So we're thinking ahead. So this is before the thing actually happens, right? So we talked about what are the assumptions that we went ahead and what do we assume about our boot camp dynamic, right? What were the benefits of this? One of the benefits, as we kind of saw when people were answering this, right? When we were going through the questions is the fact that it's so much more fast paced. We're able to get through a lot of more information in a smaller amount of time, right? So one of the things we're going to point out as a benefit is when we're going through something like a 4-year college, right? A university or something like that, depending on the length of the program, it could be that at the very beginning, what we're learning may no longer be what is being applied by the end, right? So if we have a 4-year degree, the first year we're learning about some tools, we're learning about what's happening in cybersecurity. By that 4th year, it might be we're not even using those tools anymore, or they've been upgraded and work vastly differently, right? Or the situation in our cybersecurity world has been altered fundamentally so much that it doesn't really apply anymore. So the benefits of our boot camp is that it's very quick. And so what we've learned from day one is still technically more than likely going to apply by the time we're done, right? So those are the benefits. While it is a lot of information, it's still going to be current information by the time we're done, and then we can be able to apply it directly, right? Of course, we saw what are the challenges, how we can overcome them, and so on and so forth. So next, we're going to go ahead and get into, let's see, let me go ahead and take a look at this for our expectations and norms. I think that we don't have a form for that, right? So let's go ahead and move into our cyber assessment. So here, we're going to see exactly how it is as we're going through our boot camp. What are we going to do to be able to make sure that you're picking up the information, right? That you're learning this, and that way, by the time we're done with the boot camp, right, we can say with confidence, yes, this person understands cybersecurity. They are a cybersecurity expert now, and they should be hired on by whatever company they're applying to, right? So as we go throughout our boot camp, throughout our next 6 months, we're going to see that the primary way we're going to check for your understanding to make sure that you guys know our material, know the different things we've been discussing, is we're going to go ahead and have these competency checkpoints. As a matter of fact, I believe on Wednesday, we're going to have our first one, right? So the competency checkpoints, these are going to be very quick, very easy, short quizzes, right? They can be taken both in and out of class throughout the class, or maybe we'll have it like due the following day, right? So I believe technically, usually we'll give you some time in class to be able to work on them. And that way, if there's any difficulties, if there's any technical issues, we might be able to address that. But as we pointed out right here, the due date is typically going to be, we'll give you time. So you'll have until the next day to complete them. Now, I believe for this first one, it's a very short quiz and they're usually going to be short. So for this first one that we're going to have on Wednesday, I believe it's like 4 questions, right? It's not going to be something that's going to take you forever to complete, but it is going to be related to what our topic for that day was, just to see, did you understand what we were going over, right? So it will cover in class and home study material, right? So what does that mean? Typically, before our classes start, there's going to be an area that you can go to and review. As a matter of fact, let me stop sharing here and let's go and take a look at that, right? So if we go to our learning management system, our LMS, let me go ahead and share that screen. And we'll see then, when we go there, how does that look, right? So here, if I go to self-learning, right? Most of us have already seen this. Let's say that we're here in lesson 2. If I were to go ahead and click through there, the first thing is we get a little bit of the understanding of what's going to be going over the material we're talking about, right? So we see right here a little bit of like, what are we going to go over organizationally, technically, professionally. We go to the overview. The overview again tells us a little bit of what we're going to be discussing this week, right? So you see, for example, later on, like let's say Wednesday, we're going to be going ahead and discussing this CIA concept, right? So for CIA, we'll see what we mean by that, because it isn't the Central Intelligence Agency, not when it comes to cybersecurity in general for our concepts, right? So we may have heard that anagram, right? That little CIA thing, but it's not what we're going to be discovering, right? It's not going to be what we're going to be discussing. So we're going to see what that triad is. And then if we go to our orientation, from before our class started, right? We had access to all this material, all this stuff. And so there's going to be a lot of things that we'll have there as pre-reading material. So we should be able to make sure that you guys are able to go ahead and read that ahead of time, be prepared for class to discuss these things, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about right there. So going back to my other screen, we're going to see then that's what we mean when we're going ahead and talking about that second part there, right? So here we said home study material. So it could be from that stuff that we have available to you that you guys can be able to read on your own, that you don't necessarily have to have us in class discussing, right? So anything we cover in class related to that topic, any of our study material that we have available for you guys to be able to read, the quizzes, these competency checkpoints could cover that, right? And we're going to see that it's graded by a pass-fail. So you answered enough questions correctly to pass, or you failed it. Now, I believe you can be able to take it more than once, right? So do your best effort the first time, but if you fail the very first time, don't sweat it, don't worry, don't stress. Just go back, read the material, study it, and take it again, right? Now, here we're going to point out the intent of these checkpoints is just to measure where you're at in your learning at any given time, right? So it's more of a feedback for you to understand, are you picking up the material? Are you understanding it correctly? Or do you need to go back and review the stuff? Or if you're really not doing so well, is this something you need to approach Sean or myself and ask questions about? Or come and see us for like maybe office hours or something, right? One-on-one to be able to address this, to be able to get some questions answered or something similar, right? So it's not necessarily that when we do these quizzes, because again, they're very short quizzes, right? It's typically going to be multiple choice, I believe. It's not going to be for the purpose of mastering the subject. It's just in a very general sense, how well are you picking it up? We're going to see that the second way we're going to assess stuff is what we call career preparation. So here, as we go throughout our 6 months, we're going to have times where we're going to go ahead and break you guys into breakout rooms, and we're going to go ahead and give you guys questions to ask each other. So these are going to be technical interviews, right? So for example, one of the concepts we're going to be discussing over on Wednesday is about threats, risk, and vulnerabilities. So we're going to learn about what we mean by each of those. We're going to learn about how they're related to each other, and so on. And that's going to be a very common question that you might get upon when you're having an interview and you're going out into the industry, right? They might ask you, what is a threat, or what is a vulnerability, or what is meant by risk, right? And you would need to be able to understand exactly what is meant by that in the cybersecurity industry and be able to address that. So we'll have questions like that. You guys can be able to ask each other, to be able to help each other out, and other things similar to that in class, so that we guys are getting used to these ideas, you're getting used to these topics, right? Our career preparation is also going to be covered with our in-class material. So we're not going to just throw you out there without any understanding, without any way being able to have this, right? But there is not going to be necessarily any grading when it comes with regard to our career preparation, right? And here instead, it's going to be more peer-reviewed feedback. So you guys will be going ahead and asking each other questions, or maybe Sean or myself might lead it and ask you guys these questions, and we'll see how well you're able to answer, and then give you guys some feedback on what it is that the people in the industry would be looking for and how you're answering them, right? And then we see for the last one that we're going to be dealing with career simulations. So these are going to be authentic fictionalized tasks, and they're going to be graded on a pretty much pass or fail aspect as well, right? So periodically, as we go throughout our boot camp, we're going to see that we're going to give you guys a task or an assignment that'll be very similar to what we might experience out in the industry, right? For example, once we get to red team, we might give you a vulnerable machine and say, here's a vulnerable machine, try to be able to go ahead, and essentially what we would be doing would be what you would do if you're a pen tester or penetration tester, right? Which is essentially trying to be able to hack it, trying to gain access to it through those vulnerabilities. So that'll be something similar to what you would do in the industry if you're working the red team, right? Similarly, for blue team, we're going to go ahead and see what that is, right? And we're going to see again, once we're doing that, what would we do? What is something in the real world that we might be tasked with, right? And so we'll give you these assignments and we'll see, are you able to go ahead and complete them? So these are going to be the 3 ways that we're going to have these assessments for you, right? Ways to just check your general understanding, ways to be able to go ahead and prepare you for things in your career, right? And then of course, ways to be able to go ahead and do any type of actual career or industry type interactions or tests. With that, I do notice Dylan has your hand raised. Go ahead, and if you have any questions, go ahead and ask.
Thanks, Tony. Just for those quizzes, those short quizzes, should they be open note or closed note for better comprehension and understanding?
So if Sean has any answer to this, I'll let him go ahead and answer, and then I'll add in my sense.
I'm okay with you using whatever resources you can. However, the caveat is those quizzes are timed, and I think you have very limited, amount of time. I think it's like 5 minutes or something. So if you don't know and you need to go back and look at your notes, you're gonna miss the rest of the quiz. So I would say answer, try your best to just answer it because of that limited time. And it's a pass, no pass type of deal. So you wouldn't be necessarily like get points deducted if you miss. It's just for us to understand like what materials people are picking up and which materials people aren't, right? So for us to kind of focus our attention. But so you can use your notes. It's just you're not going to have enough time to look at it. Is what I'm saying.
Excellent. To add in my 2 cents to that, Sean made a very good point of remembering that it is timed. I believe for this first one, it's 6 minutes that they have, but I would say on the average, it's about 5 minutes, like Sean was saying. So before going into these competency checks, right, I would say review the material so you have it fresh in your mind. You're already prepared for it rather than taking it without being a refresher first, right? So that way you don't have to necessarily go looking through your notes for all the answer. You kind of already have it in your mind, right? Or you're kind of familiar with the topics already because you did go kind of reviewing before taking it. So that would be definitely one thing to do, because as Sean pointed out, if you're having to look through your notes for all the answers, you might miss a few of the questions because of time running out. The other thing I would point out, I'm fine with it if you have to use your notes, of having your notes there and it being open notes, right? Because in the industry, you're not going to memorize everything, right? There is absolutely no way that a single person will remember everything when it comes to cybersecurity. One, it's just a wide range of stuff. We're going to see how vast, how many different things we have to have at least a general understanding of in order to be our cybersecurity specialists that we are, right? To be able to go ahead and be the experts in our field that we are. It can range from knowing and just understanding the generals of how our networking itself works, right? To knowing how to be able to go ahead and actually navigate through our machines using Linux commands, to knowing if we have to, how we can be able to go ahead and write up a script in either Python or in Bash, as we'll learn as we get to those, to be able to make certain tasks just happen easier for us, or to be able to process data or to analyze something, right? So it's a wide range of knowledge, and trying to memorize all of that is going to be impossible, especially because, as we've pointed out, the knowledge, the tools, the whole field, the industry itself changes very quickly, right? So what we know today, 3 years from now, might be different, right? With regards to some of these aspects or some of the ways we're handling our security, right? So as Sean pointed in the chat, Google is your best friend, right? You don't have to memorize stuff. You don't have to know these things by heart, but we do need to know how to get to an answer. How can we look up our resources to be able to understand what we're doing, right? And so using your notes is a very good way of being able to do that. So I have no problem with you using your notes. The way I would put it is you can use anything and everything accessible to you except your fellow classmates when you're dealing with some of these assessments, right? You don't want to be able to go ahead and have another of your classmates answering for you. But aside from that, if you need to Google it, Google it. If you have it in your notes, look it up in your notes. If you need to go back to some of the resources we provided or some of the reading material that was accessible for us, by all means, right? Because in the real world, you would have all of that available to you and you could be able to go ahead and use it. Any other excellent questions? Let's see, let's go ahead and continue then. So going back here, let's go ahead and move over to the next slide. So the next thing is this concept of why cybersecurity. So we've kind of gone over a few of the different things, right, of what's kind of expected of you guys. We've gone over a little bit of what we're expecting from the boot camp, right? What are the benefits? What are the challenges? So then the concept now is, well, why cybersecurity specifically? We could have done a boot camp in almost anything, right? Web development, data analyst. Why is it that we're choosing cybersecurity? And so we're going to see again here, we're going to have you guys break out into the breakout rooms for just a few minutes, right? And we're going to have you guys go ahead and kind of discuss what is cybersecurity to you and kind of why did you guys choose it? So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here and go back to our learning management system and kind of let's take a look there on the next thing that we're going to be using, right? That next resource. So, all right, let's see here. So here we are. And if we go back to here with 2.3, our orientation, right? Scrolling down, we're going to see right here, activity 1D. We say that once you guys are put back into your breakout rooms, we have our link right here for why cybersecurity. You're going to share this. You guys are going to go through that and you guys are going to kind of answer what is your team's definition of what we mean by cyber, right? And then 2 or 3 words of what you guys understand for cybersecurity. And then we see a little bit right here involved with this, this diagram of different areas that we might be thinking about or we might want to be learning about, right? So when it comes to that, what is happening? So again, if we click right here, we're going to go ahead and see then we can make a copy. And then once we make a copy of this document, so hopefully that'll go ahead and go through soon. There we go. We're going to see again our Jamboard, right? And up at the top, we're going to go ahead and see the different ways we can get to our questions. So the first one is defining cybersecurity. So with your team, what do you guys feel cybersecurity is? What are we dealing with? What is it talking about, right? And then we see right here, you guys can be able to go ahead and use these sticky notes, right? You guys can click on them and you guys can be able to do stuff. So it says use the sticky notes to share words or phrases that come to mind, right? We go to this next one right here. Here's an example of what we call a Caesar cipher. So this is a way to send coded messages. So we see right here, just as an example, this is something that might be related to what we want to learn about, right? So we go ahead and see that. We see right here, that next part, we see also right here, OSINT and cybersecurity ethics. here we have as a bonus discussion, if you guys are able to get this far, what are your favorite cybersecurity themed movies, TV shows? If there's any podcasts that you're aware of and listen to, or any books that deal with that theme, right? What are they? And then finally, as a bonus activity, try to be able to come up with what we call a hacker handle, right? So once we start getting into red team down the road, what would you be able to use as kind of that name, that way you'd be known by, to be able to go ahead and go through that. And I believe that once we get to number 8 with this bonus activity, that's the last part that we have here for these Jamboards. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to the breakout rooms in a little bit. And then we want you to go and get that copy of that document, and with your team, go ahead and kind of discuss these things, right? So again, we'll do it for about 15 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and come back and see what you guys were able to go ahead and do for that, for cybersecurity.
I'm still fine. Okay, I'm definitely going to put that in my arsenal of troubleshooting for Vocarium. It got so bad that I have the number of one of the head Vocarium tech specialists. Next will be Zoom. I'm going to get a phone number for each support person.
There you go.
That's when I know I'll succeed. When I have all of the support chat people's actual phone numbers.
Got to catch them all.
Welcome back.
Hello.
I have almost finished my Coke on top of finishing my coffee. Hope everyone else is keeping up.
Making sure to stay caffeinated and awake.
This is when I need that walking treadmill. I feel like this would be a good time to get on that.
Or one of those pedal machines that you can be able to put under your desk.
Yes. I almost
Peloton.
got one of those. Yeah.
One of those, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I have
So
to fight.
it looks like everybody is back. So let's see. Here we are back with our presentation. So our whole aspect that we did in the breakout rooms right now was just to be able to go ahead and kind of, from your point of view, start figuring out what it is that we understand cybersecurity to be. What do we mean by cyber in general, right? We said, go ahead and start breaking out into those rooms, discussing those topics, and then coming back to kind of see what that is, right? So let's go ahead, let's go, and just like we did before, let's see how you guys, if you guys want to volunteer, we're able to come up and address those questions. So what do you guys understand cybersecurity to be? What is it working with, or what does it entail? So who wants to volunteer for that first?
I feel like we should choose someone who doesn't have their video on.
All right, I see Irving
Who but
has
Irving?
once again put his on, so go ahead.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Okay, good. So my team defines cybersecurity as being able to help solve crimes, act of protecting sensitive information from malicious threats, access to data files, maintain privacy in the internet, preventing unauthorized access to sensitive information. Okay, what is cybersecurity? So some of the sticky notes that we had was secure private data, cookies, safety, system log, traces, privacy, access control, VPN, data, ransomware, integrity, Trojan horse, malware, and firewall. We kind of did a quick Caesar cipher with key 2, trying to spell out cybersecurity. And of course, I can post what we came up with as it being the answer on the chat. And that's as far as we got because we ran out of time.
Excellent. You guys got pretty far, so that's good. A lot of nice keywords there, right? A lot of good kind of ways of picturing what cybersecurity is going to be dealing with. With that, let's go ahead and see. I noticed that Ryan has his hand up. So Ryan, once you're ready, go ahead and what were the answers that your team were able to come up with?
For ours, defining cybersecurity, we is a practice of protecting systems, networks, programs, and computers from cyber attacks, scanning computers for sketchy links, securitization of companies' private data. Hang on, sorry, I need my glasses. Let's see, the sticky notes. What comes to mind when you think of cybersecurity? Supply chain attacks, Python, Linux, malware, red team, blue team, white hat, black hat, Trojan worm, DOS attack, firewall. Let's see here. Oh yeah. I almost got that one. We did. Oh shit! I don't know how much. Shit, I don't know if I could share it. Well, we put
You go ahead
plain
and
text
just
red.
describe it.
Okay, I mean I can write it in the chat if you want, but we put the plain text is red team, and the ciphertext is SFE space UFBN. So there you go. Let's see, I think, was that it? Oh, and then we got, I think this is the last one we got to. The Caesar cipher, use what you learned about Caesar cipher as a research and define the terms in pink, then answer the prompt. Reset as an example of encryption. And then I think that was it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of these concepts, as was said in the chat, right? I believe Sean said there's a lot of keywords there. And so as you pointed out, a lot of these keywords that you guys are coming up with, that you guys are mentioning, these are definitely going to be things we're going to be discussing as we go throughout the cohort, right? So things like encryption, things like what's happening when we do something like a VPN, right? Things like that, we are going to go ahead and discuss these, and we're going to go over these concepts. I do see Griffith has his hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah. Right. So for our breakout room, we essentially define cybersecurity as a set of practices, protocols, and programs for securing important and sensitive information, as well as securing your system itself. So that's physical information and system security. So what we think of when we talk about cybersecurity is that's not just information security, but it's also things like denial of service attacks that are actually preventing productivity and preventing your service from being used. It's ensuring that sensitive information is protected in all the correct ways. That includes encryption, as well as like where are you storing it. It's also knowing who has access to that information, and like making sure that they understand all the protocols for keeping that information safe. And also knowing how to break your own system. If you can't figure out how to break your own system, then someone else is going to figure it out before you, probably. Let's see. So for the Caesar cipher, I'll just go ahead and post. We did a very short one here. I'll post it in the chat. If I can actually get this to copyright. Hold on. I'll just type it up. And that is a 3-letter cipher. So you can have fun with that. That was about as far as we got, though, unfortunately.
Excellent.
Though I can mention like one thing I know about like breaking the Caesar cipher is you can well, for longer ones, ours is a bit too short to do this, but you can count all of the letters that appear in the encrypted text, and essentially compare that to the most commonly used letters in the English language. It's called like a frequency decryption or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the
Excellent
number of
points.
yeah.
So yeah, to jump in on that, as he was discussing, right, Griffith pointed out that when it comes to simple encryption, such as our substitution cipher for Caesar cipher, that's definitely one of the ways you can break it, right? And that's going to be exactly what we're going to be discussing as we go through the cohort later on. When we get into encryption, we're going to talk about why we don't use some of these encryption standards anymore. And it's going to be because when we first came out with them, since they were novel and new, people didn't know how to be able to go ahead and break them or to figure out what was being said. But since then, we've figured out ways to be able to go ahead and, hey, even though you're talking in an encrypted manner, we can figure out what it is that you're saying, right? And so as he pointed out, when it comes to our Caesar cipher, we can be able to go ahead and look at the frequency analysis of our characters, right? And we've noticed that, hey, if there's this particular character, maybe it's the letter L that's showing up a huge amount of the time, chances are, if we're using the English language, it's the letter E, because the letter E is the most frequently used letter in the English language, right? And then we can go on from there. So that's why we're going to see, as we get to more advanced versions of encryption, there's the concept of what we say is diffusion. We try to be able to kind of break that apart where we have more than one way to substitute for a particular character or a particular symbol. So you don't know just based on its frequency what it's supposed to represent. And we'll see those concepts as we get closer to that. But excellent point with going ahead and starting to bring that up and starting to anticipate that. So excellent points with all the stuff that you guys have come up. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we kind of picture as what we mean by cybersecurity in this boot camp. So going right here, this is the way we're going to go ahead and kind of picture it and what we want you guys to be able to picture when we're talking about cybersecurity. And a lot of you guys hit the nail on the head with this, right? So it is the protection of not just our computers, but our networks, right? Our data, our systems. And then we're protecting them from anything that is harmful or negative, right? So how is this harmful to our data, our systems, our computers, or how is it negatively impacting it? So I believe some of you guys mentioned denial of service, for example, right? A denial of service isn't necessarily going to damage our data or it's going to damage our computer. I mean, it might in certain special cases, right? But for the most part, a denial of service is just saying, hey, exactly as the name implies, we're not allowing you to be able to actually reach this service, right? We're denying that. So what it's denying is the accessibility to using our resources, to using our systems, or to using that network or something similar, right? So that is a negative impact, not necessarily something harmful. So it might be harmful for our bottom line if we were a business or a company or something like that, right? But it's not actually going to go ahead and destroy our systems, for instance. So we want to protect against both versions of this, right? Not just, hey, what's going to actually damage our stuff, but also what's going to be negatively impacting our organization or our business. We want to be able to prevent that. We want to make sure things are running the way that they should be. And this is going to tie in right away to what we're going to be discussing on Wednesday, right? So Wednesday, we're going to see that CIA triad that lets us know what are the three primary things that we are concerned with when it comes to cybersecurity. What are we trying to protect? And we'll see that on Wednesday. So we're going to see right here some of the other things we didn't get a chance to because of the timing, right, to get to inside of our breakout rooms that we want to be aware of is not only how we can be able to protect these things, but we want to be aware and be able to know how does it relate to what we call OSINT and then our ethics, right? So OSINT, we're going to hear this as we go throughout our boot camp repeatedly. This is what we call open source intelligence, right? And so here, we're going to see as we get more involved with this type of concepts, right? As we go more towards our red team and seeing how we can use our OSINT resources to be able to go ahead and get information. This is essentially what is publicly available out there, right? So for example, if you were to Google just your name, what's going to show up? Is it going to show up your Facebook or your Instagram or your Twitter or your LinkedIn profile? How much information is publicly accessible on there? So if I didn't have let's say something like Twitter or Facebook, could I still be able to go ahead and click on that link that shows up under Google and then see your information? Could I be able to see, for example, where you're located, or what business you work for, or what's your position or in that company, right? Stuff like that. Or just maybe I might find your email, or maybe even your telephone number, right? What is publicly accessible just by going through public records? That's what OSINT is. And so we're going to see that sometimes it can be a little scary, all the information that's out there, but this is a part of cybersecurity as well, right? And then when it comes to the ethics, what is the ethical way of being able to go ahead and go about using all the tools and all the knowledge and all the things at our disposal, right? So when we're talking about cybersecurity, whether we're talking about being a red hat type of hacker, right? Looking at how we can be able to go ahead and take advantage of vulnerable systems for the purpose of helping people to defend their systems in the end, or whether we're working blue team, right? To be able to go ahead and be that defense to begin with, what can we do about that? What can we be able to do it in an ethical manner, right? So we get here with that ethical mindset to what we call the Ethical Hacker Manifesto. So while we are learning these things, when we're teaching you these new skills, these ways of being able to go ahead and violate cybersecurity systems, right? Because we're essentially going to show you how to be hackers first. That's what our red team is going to be. So that way we can understand how we can defend against such people, right? So we'll say, as we're learning these skills and we're learning how to be able to go ahead and hack, then we want to be able to do this in an ethical way. So we say, I will be honorable. I will be responsible. I will be reliable. I will treat people fairly and with respect. I will respect people's privacy and the privacy of organizations that I work for. I will keep my skills and knowledge current through lifelong learning. I will be active in the InfoSec community and be able to give back. I will build projects and be willing to share what I learn, and I will submit only original and authentic work, and I will inspire and support aspiring hackers, right? So we want to do this in an ethical manner, right? Anytime we're doing any form of hacking whatsoever, we want to make sure we have permission, right? That's usually why we'll do it on virtual machines that we have been granted access to. So that way we're not actually violating anybody's systems or maybe ruining things for them, right? So whether you know how to do it or whether you're skillful enough to be able to go ahead and do it, never do it on somebody's system that isn't your own, one that you don't have permission for, right? We want to always make sure that we're doing this ethically and we only use our skills for good, right? We don't want to use them for evil. So we say then, I won't, pardon my French, be an asshole, right? I won't be dishonest. I won't be deceitful. I won't do things that are illegal. I won't make any misleading or false representations to anyone. I won't raise unnecessary alarm or give unwarranted comfort. I won't disclose any confidential information without the specific consent of the owner. And I won't work in InfoSec just for the money, right? So we want to make sure that as we're doing this for the right reasons, right? We're not doing it just because it's profitable or just because there's money in it. We're doing it because we want to be able to make sure that we're making things secure. We're trying to be able to go ahead and help people, right? We're doing this to make sure that our systems are working as intended rather than them being vulnerable to other people, right? So keep this in mind because this is going to be very, very important, right? That as we're learning these skills, as we're teaching you guys how to be able to go ahead and hack systems and be able to gain unauthorized access to something that is vulnerable, again, that we're doing this with the expressed consent and information and permission of the owners, right? We're never doing it for evil. We're never doing it without their understanding or permission. So moving on, we're going to go ahead and then see here, we have this curriculum overview, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to see that we have 7 units that we're going to be going over throughout the entirety of our boot camp, right? We've already started the first one as of tonight. This is our Cybersecurity Fundamentals, just learning the basics of how the boot camp is going to be, what are we going to be handling, how are we going to go ahead and handle the boot camp in general, and what's expected of you and what's expected of us, right? Then we're going to get eventually to our second unit, which is asset and inventory management. So part of our cybersecurity is going to be dealing with what is the stuff that we are responsible for, right? So what machines are on the networks that we're going to be dealing, where are they located, who has access to them, things like that. Then we're going to get to 3, our networking systems. So in order to be able to go ahead and be proper in how we're in our cybersecurity, making sure everything is secure, making sure that we're able to properly defend, we have to know at least a basic understanding of how our devices communicate, and therefore what can and can't go wrong, right? Then we're going to get to Unit 4, programming with Python. So we're going to see as we go through a lot of the stuff that we talk about, it can be hard to do it manually because there's just a huge amount of information out there, or a lot of logs we might have to go through. So sometimes it can be very helpful to know how to be able to do a script, to be able to automate things, or to be able to have that we can write a program that can be able to do some data processing for us, right? So we're going to show you how to be able to go ahead and do that with Python. Then we're going to get to system administration, right? So just our basic concepts of how our different networkings, our different systems can kind of be organized, or how we can handle them. And then finally, we're going to get to red team and blue team. So as we kind of hinted at here, our red team, we're going to show you how to be ethical hackers, right? We're going to show you what you would do if you were a pen tester. So how can we analyze the system, find its vulnerabilities, and then gain access to that system, regardless of whether or not we were able to have initial access, right? And then our blue team, how with that mindset, with understanding how others can be able to go ahead and prey upon our weaknesses, how can we defend against it, right? So throughout the entirety of the boot camp, what is it that you're going to be using? What are the primary tools that we're going to be focusing on to be able to show you the curriculum, teach you these concepts, and then be able to communicate with you? So we're going to see that obviously, as we've already shown a lot this night, we're going to use the Simply Learn LMS, right? So here, this is going to be for our workshops, for our assessments, for our general resources we're going to share with you, such as what you want to read before class, our virtual classroom link, and the projects we're going to have you work on. That's all going to be done through the Simply Learn LMS. Then one thing that we're going to really try to hammer home this evening is the Slack channel, right? So this is the primary form of communication. This is the way we want you to communicate with us. This is the way we're going to communicate with you. And this is the way we want you to communicate with each other. You guys can form study groups. You guys can help each other out. You guys can ask each other questions. You guys can ask us questions. If you need more one-on-one time, or if you're having difficulties, this is how you can let us know, right? So on and so forth. Any announcements that Sean or myself are going to post, or maybe even Starlight or Harsh or Isabel, this will be the way we'll post those announcements, right? So group messaging, direct messaging, any hints and tips, all done through Slack. So if you haven't done Slack already, right, if you haven't joined, reach out to Starlight, send her an email or contact her, and let her know that you haven't been able to join the Slack channel. So that way she can be able to go ahead and make sure that you get that invite again so you can join, because you really need to be a part of it, right? And then we're going to go ahead and point out that we're also going to have SL Labs. We're going to have the initial way to be able to contact that, or to be able to join that through our LMS, right? So we're going to have a link over to our labs. We'll show you that on Wednesday, exactly how our labs are going to be handled. So any exercises, any type of lab work that we're going to have virtualization, we'll do it through there. We'll show you that on Wednesday. And then of course, other sort of tools you can be able to use throughout the entirety of the boot camp is myself, Sean as instructors. Don't forget, we're here for you. You are literally paying for this boot camp so that we can be able to go ahead and make sure that you learn this material by the time it's done. So if you're having difficulty, if you're not learning it, reach out to us, because that is our job. That is what we are here for. You are paying for us to make sure you understand this. So use us when you need help, when you need to reach out, make sure you do so. Same thing with our LSMs, right? So Harsh, Isabel, same thing with our program manager, Starlight, right? Any office hours that you guys need, reach out to us so that we can be able to go ahead and have that available for you. And of course, you guys can use each other as classmates, right? Now, what is required from you? Well, for our machines that we're going to expect you guys to be able to use to be able to do our labs, we're going to see that you need at least a dual core Intel i5 or AMD 3000 processor, or you can even use the newer Apple M1s or M2 processors. You need at least 8 gigabytes of RAM, a 250 gigabyte solid state drive with at least 50 gigabytes free, right? You should have an operating system that is recent, such as Mac OS Catalina or higher, or Windows 10 or higher. And then of course, you should have Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome, and they should be updated, right, to the most recent one. And then you want a minimum internet connection speed of around at least 10 megabits per second, and your computer, your system should be in good working condition, right? Now, for our last few topics, we're just going to speed through this. So normally we would have you go out into breakout teams and discuss red team versus blue team, but we're going to go ahead and see here, we're going to go ahead and discuss what that is, and then we're going to end it for tonight, right? So red team versus blue team, we're going to see that red team is all about being on the attack, right? We're seeing how can we be able to go ahead and be able to gain access to a system or ruin that system or take advantage of a system in a sense, right? So for example, if we're dealing with these vending machines, how can we be able to break into that vending machine and take something from it that we want, right? Whereas blue team is all about the defense. So we're going to see how can we protect the machine. So we're going to try and anticipate all the ways that somebody might be able to violate this machine or bust this machine or do something to take advantage of this machine. And we're going to try and see how can we prevent that? How can we defend it, right? So for wrap up, what have we done? What have we discussed tonight? Well, we've gone over the different type of career goals that you guys may have, right? What are your expectations for the bootcamp experience? What is the curriculum and the instructional team going to be like? We talked about talking about your different skills, your expectations, right? What it is that we're going to be doing throughout the boot camp and what is that going to do for your profession? We also talked about how we can build connections, especially those with your peers, right? You want to network with them, you want to keep in communication with them. And finally, how we can identify resources, what's available to us, so we can be able to provide you the support you need for your academic and non-academic needs. And with that, we're pretty much done with what we want to cover. So are there any questions?
While we wait for, oh, go ahead.
I do see Jeremy has his hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and ask Jeremy. Go ahead.
So yeah, so I have a question regarding for the careers part. Once the bootcamp course is completed, just wanted to touch bases with that. How you're going to go about that? Because my anticipation was there were probably I think it was a set program regarding that's hosted through Caltech. And since Caltech is pretty prestigious, I thought you have a set of networks of people with different organizations and businesses that basically would go through that. They either see that we went through it, got the certificate. So I was wondering, is that something to do, or is it something I mentioned earlier, like we're just going to do it ourselves through LinkedIn to peer-to-peer?
Excellent question. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll take this question and then I'll let Sean add anything that he feels that would be a great way to answer this as well. And so in previous boot camps, what we've done is we actually have had a career success manager come in and kind of work with you guys on what is it that you guys need to be able to kind of do to present yourselves to anybody that's hiring, right? So they'll go over resume stuff. They would go over how you would want to have your LinkedIn profile, but more importantly, they would have a career success day. And I believe we're still going to do that, but I would have to double check on that, where they would actually, like you were mentioning, right, use their connections to be able to bring in people from the industry to get to know you, for you to get to know them, and be able to make those connections to somebody that's hiring, and then be able to go ahead and try and see if you can be able to get an interview, right? So it's not going to be just entirely up to you. We will give you the tools and the resources for how to be able to go ahead and do that. So you can be able to start reaching out. You can start looking for those jobs. You can make those connections. But I believe they also are going to be going ahead and bringing some of those people to you, giving you time and opportunities to be able to go ahead and talk to these people that are looking for cybersecurity experts, right? And that they're going to know that all the stuff that you guys went to, all the tools we've taught you, all the knowledge that you guys have gained through the boot camp, so that they know that you are the experts that you guys will be by the time you're done. And then they can give you a chance to getting to know them and vice versa, so that you can be able to get hired that way as well. And of course, Sean, if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think you covered very well. So again, the program differs cohort by cohort. The previous cohorts, we did have specialized person come in, help you with the career success. They might have like employer, what is it, like introduction calls where you get to meet different employers and stuff like that, like a job fair, if you will. But for this cohort, I'm not sure if we have that separate program after the cohort finishes. We'll find that information and get back to you, Jeremy. But again, you won't be left on your own to figure everything out by yourself to figure all that out. So, but yeah, we'll get back to you with more information. Ryan, you had your hands up at all?
Yeah. If I missed it, if you said it earlier, forgive me. But with the slides from today's class, can we get that before the live class is posted? Because you guys said it takes 24 to 48 hours for it to post. Is there a way to just get those slides from today?
So I think that I believe we can be able to go ahead and share the slides with you for this one, but I believe moving forward, the slides that we're going to be going over discussing the topics in class will actually be incorporated and be a part of what you'll see there in the LMS for Simply Learn. So for example, on Wednesday, when we go over the mindset that we want to be able to have for cybersecurity and the whole concept of the CIA triad, that'll go ahead and be available there in the materials that we'll have for that. So it'll be directly accessible in the LMS.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other excellent questions that anybody has? All right, Jeremy.
So for the pace, right? Is it possible to finish this course in less than 6 months? Just asking because I know the live classes has to be, okay, so it's a set schedule for the live classes. That's only set for 6 months. Is it possible to finish early by any chance?
So to my understanding, no, right? We're going to go ahead and we're going to be here for the full 6 months. The live classes are indeed an integral part of it. And so, for example, you won't be able to have access to the blue team stuff anytime before we actually move into it in the live classes, right? So it is going to take the full 6 months to be able to go ahead and complete everything.
So on your self-paced part, you can't move forward if you study on your own, able to gather those knowledge and skill sets. So it's not going to go so far before you can move on to the live classes come on that specific date, basically.
Correct. So we would open up a unit. You would have access to that. You can move ahead if you want, and you can be able to go ahead and advance at your own pace with that. But until the next unit opens up, you won't have access to it, right?
All right, sounds good.
All right. Flores or Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, I came late, so forgive me if you already answered this question, but obviously with the completion of this boot camp, we're clearly qualified for like, security operations center analyst roles and things like that. But would we be qualified for, let's say, working for Defense Department or any government jobs as well in cybersecurity?
So I will let Sean also answer this as well to add anything that he feels necessary for that. But to my answer, yes, right? You're not going to be obviously like a senior level. You're not going to be able to jump up to being a leader of a group, for example, but you will have the skills and the knowledge necessary to be able to go ahead and get right into a position even with that, right? Because we're going to show you everything you need to know to be able to go ahead and begin in the cyber industry, whether it's in the private side, whether it's you want to be able to start your own business, for example, or if you want to be able to go ahead and join either the government or the military or something similar, right? And it's going to be that we're going to give you the knowledge and the know-how to be able to go ahead and jump right in. Sean?
And yeah, my 2 cents is now we're going to get you to a level where you could become a cybersecurity analyst. However, what you're asking is specifically for the government, contractor, or defense. Now they have their own set of requirements, not just skill-wise, but they also require background checks, security clearances. So that's something that we don't help you get, right? That's something that you have to go through their process in order to, but so that's just a different industry to break in altogether. But as far as the skill set goes, once you have your clearances and your background check and all that done by the government, then defense contracting, government work, all of that, that's all free game as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Also, another question: where would you say the majority of the demand is in this space, with government or private sector?
In my experience, and there's a lot of demand in the tech, right? So if you think about like Google, Facebook, every other website you see that you can access, they all have their internal security teams, right? To that note, a lot of government agencies, not just the federal, state, local, basically any website you see that they have some sort of a service, they need a security team to defend it, right? So it is, I can't say one industry is bigger than the other. It's pretty much spread out. Depending on the industry, the technical skill set you might need might differ a little bit. The pay scale changes a little bit as well, but it's a growing demand throughout the industry. So it's whatever that you're interested in, you could probably get into.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
To add to that, I would say Is that organization or is that business or that company something that uses anything that's digital? If so, which pretty much everyone is nowadays, then there's technically a need for a cybersecurity personnel on that team, right? Now, whether or not they realize that or they're willing to pay for that, that's another story. But if they're using something that's digital, there's definitely a need for us for that cybersecurity aspect. So every type of government, right? Every type of business is going to have need for that team, for that personnel. And of course, we're going to see that there's a lot more organizations, a lot more businesses than there is necessarily governments, right? So to that aspect, there's a lot more openings there, but there should be technically openings and availability pretty much anywhere, right? We're going to see that it is a heavily thing that's in demand, and it's only going to go ahead and increase from there just because of the fact that we're going to get more and more dependent on our technology as things go along. And there's always going to be malicious actors, right? All right. Any other questions from you, Robert, before I move on to Pam?
No, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Excellent. Pam, go ahead. Looks like you're muted.
There we go. Sorry.
Excellent.
So I was a little distracted, but maybe you might have covered this. But after we complete the course, thereafter, we then take another test. So, I mean, what can we do with this certification? How far can we go with it before we need to take another certification?
Excellent question. So before I let Sean handle the rest of this, I'm going to point out it does depend on the position that you're applying for, right? So some of them, a lot of them, when it comes to kind of a gateway, right? What opens up the door so you can be able to go ahead and meet the qualifications that they're looking for, you might still have to take something like a Security Plus or Networking Plus or the CISA Plus type of certification test. And that's just something that they're looking to check off of their box, right? Do you have that general level of understanding? And by taking that type of an examination, you're able to go ahead and kind of provide that, right? But it really is a case-by-case basis on what you're applying for and just what are they looking for, right? But at the very least, once they look at the certification from this boot camp, they know that you have this, because it's an industry-wide thing, right? It's recognizable that this boot camp is something that is intense. It is going to provide you the necessary skills. And they know that now at that point, you've met this certain requirement of understanding and what you're capable of. And with that, I'll pass it over to Sean.
Yeah, I think you covered really well. As far as certifications go, so you do get a certificate for graduating this bootcamp, which is different than the industry, cybersecurity certifications. To Tony's point, it's case by case. In most cases, you don't really need certification. It's if you look at the job descriptions, it would just say it's recommended, but it's not really a required. Unless you're getting into the government or defense contracting roles, then they will have a required what they call like level 1 or level 2 certifications for whatever agency you're going to apply to. Then they will say, hey, you should have at least Security Plus or CISSP or CASP or whatever. For those jobs specifically, you will need those certifications as a requirement. But unless you're getting into government or defense, any other job, it would just say at the very bottom, recommended certifications, but it wouldn't be a requirement per se.
Okay, and for the Security Plus and Network, are those other boot camps?
So a lot of the time when it comes to these certifications for the industry, like Sean was mentioning, those aren't actually going to be for boot camps. Those are going to be that you would go ahead and pay to be able to go and take it. So that's usually with something like an organization such as CompTIA, a recognized industry way of being able to go ahead and show that you have that level of knowledge. So kind of like the SATs, right? When we were younger and we had to take the SATs, you'd have to register with them, go take that exam, and then you'd be there for a few hours, and then you'd get your results. And then you'd be able to send that into the college of your choice to be able to say, hey, I have this general level of understanding, right? So similar thing here, you would go and register with CompTIA, for example, register for that examination, go take the test for a few hours at one of their locations. And then based on if you're able to pass that examination, they'd issue you that certificate showing that you've met that level of understanding.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so before we wrap it up for the night, and I thank you all for sticking around with us for so long, Are there any other excellent questions that you guys have before we go ahead and end it?
I do want to point out one thing before we continue questions. There is a survey link that I'll be posting, or Harsh, there we go, Harsh has it. We'll be posting. This is super important because I go through every single week and I look at everyone's reviews. Anyone who has left any sort of review or rating, I will personally go through and read them. My favorite are the positive ones, but I do want to hear how you are feeling. If there's some sort of concern you have, whether it's platform, trainers, even though our trainers are awesome, LSM, which is, he's awesome too. I will go through and personally try to adapt our classroom and our cohort to match what your needs are. So please speak up, even if it's just to say, Tony and Antonio's backgrounds are the best thing ever. Anything like that, just leave ratings, please. It helps me a bunch.
All right, and to that, I've noticed in the chat, June is asking, can we leave the session if we don't have any questions? I'm going to go ahead, and if Sean's okay with this, I'm going to say yes, right? If you don't have any other questions, and of course, you can always watch the video recording to be able to see how we handled the questions that are still here. If you need to go, you can, because it is past the time that we had scheduled for the cohort, right? But we'll still stick around, me and Sean, to be able to answer the questions that anybody has. So to that effect, if you need to go, you're more than welcome to be able to go ahead and leave. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to Dylan, since you have your hand raised. What's your question?
Thanks, Tony. On the topic of the machine specs required here, is there a certain point in the course that we have, say if you don't have that right now, is there a certain point where it becomes paramount to have it? Like, if it's like the first, maybe like week or the first course, are we accessing these programs that require these specs effective immediately? Or is there like kind of maybe a set amount of time we have to go ahead and get the required specs if we don't have them already before, we're accessing these higher level programs that require said specs?
So the main reason that we have those specs listed is so that we can be able to go ahead and deal with our Vocarium virtual machines, right? And that way they can be able to run smoothly. And so we're going to actually start getting into Vocarium and showing you how to be able to use them as of Wednesday. So we're not going to go into anything too complicated for the first few weeks. But definitely, I would say within those first 6 weeks, if you don't have a machine with those specs, start looking to get one. So that way, as we start moving to more complicated things that we're going to be doing on those virtual machines, your machine should be able to handle it and it should run smoothly versus maybe it lagging or it being so slow that you're not able to really do anything, right? All right.
If you don't mind just reiterating, if you can, what the specs were.
Sure. So let me go ahead and go back to our presentation.
I put them in the Slack as well. So if you go into the Slack, I took a screenshot for everybody. I also would highly recommend, if you have to get specs that are higher, I got my desktop off of Newegg, not promoted, but way less expensive. I don't know if that's like a normal thing, but I go on Newegg.
Yeah, I mostly just really want to know. I'm working off of Surface Pro 7 Plus right now. I just want to know if I need to get another laptop or upgrade to anything.
So I've been able to run Vocarium off of my Surface Pro 4, so it's even older, right? It really is going to boil down to how much memory does your machine have. So for example, my Surface Pro, I got it at the time that I did get it with 16 gigabytes of RAM. So with that amount of RAM, it's able to run fairly well. I haven't had any issues with it. So if yours is similar, I would think that it should be able to run and handle it just fine.
Yeah, I might need to look at a different device, and mine only has 8 gigabytes installed RAM. So are there products I can buy to just upgrade it?
When it comes to the Surface Pro, I don't think that there's really too many ways to be able to upgrade it. Sean?
I was gonna say, I think 8 gigabytes of RAM is the minimum required, so I think it should be fine. And just so you're aware, we have the Vocarium so that you necessarily wouldn't run the VMs. It would be running in the the cloud, and you'll just be accessing it through the browser. So as long as you have Chrome and you have a stable internet and the minimum requirement there, it's basically to run your operating system and Chrome, right? So you should be fine as long as you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, like you mentioned.
Okay, I will work on getting Chrome. I've been trying to install it for a minute now, but it keeps interfering with something, but I'm not sure how to get around it. Okay.
You should be able to use it with the Edge, but yeah, we could troubleshoot tomorrow, or I'm sorry, Wednesday when you have issues, but you should have issues if you have some sort of updated browser.
Okay.
I've been able to access and be able to use Vocarium, even Firefox as well. So as Sean said, as long as a current browser and it's updated, it should be able to go ahead and work with our Vocarium systems rather well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
right,
Joel,
I believe-
think you had, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, thank you for taking my question in. My question is, going back to the self-learning, when would we be able to expect the competency checkpoint? Is that something that we would take maybe at the end of the week?
So usually we're going to be going over various different topics, so different like areas that are kind of associated with each other. And then at the end of those, we'll kind of have a competency checkpoint. So for example, Wednesday, we're going to go over just this whole cybersecurity mindset in general. What is the CIA triad? How we're going to be going ahead and using Vocarium, things like that, right? And then we're going to have a competency checkpoint at the end of that. I believe Thursday, we'll likely go over how we can just use our virtual machines to navigate through our computer system, how we can be able to go ahead and do things like accessing files or searching for files, looking for data in our machines. And then we'll have another competency checkpoint at the end of that topic as well. So usually it's going to kind of roughly go hand in hand with the different topics we're going to go. It's not necessarily going to be every day, but you can expect at least one every week, so to speak.
Sorry about that. So going back to today's topics, where would it be a good point to continue studying for the rest of the night? Where can we maybe pick up from?
I think we're gonna post that in our Slack channel, a little short summary, and then kind of what to look forward to, what you need to do ahead of time, kind of just that whole little blurb just to help you for the future.
Exactly.
Thank
And
you.
you can expect that at the end of every one of our sessions, right? So typically at the end of every class that we meet, just like Starlight pointed out, we'll go ahead and kind of post a little thing with a summary of what did we go over, what were the things that we discussed, and then what we kind of hope that you will do to prepare for the next class. All right. Jeremy, I see your hand is raised.
Hey, so I just want to know with the Caltech certificate and the also the other certs, what kind of the certificate from the Caltech value weight it holds versus the certs? Do I still having those certs with the certificate helps you become more marketable among the organizations and companies? Or just having that cert by itself alone basically propels a little above people who just have those certs, or just having those certs helps a lot along with it?
I would say a good analogy, and then again, Sean can be able to enter his knowledge on this afterwards. A good analogy would go back to kind of what we were talking about with that whole concept of the SATs, right? Could you be able to graduate from high school and then just apply to a university and be able to get accepted? Yes, and a lot of universities have been moving towards that, right? Where you don't need SATs, but there are going to be some that are going to require it still, right? Where they're going to say, hey, we need you to turn in some SATs or the ACT, right? Or some other type of test, or maybe it'll be some way of distinguishing, right? They don't require it, but they can be able to say, hey, if you have it, provide it for us, right? Give it to us. So that would be a way of kind of distinguishing you or elevating you above maybe the rest of the people that are applying for that position, right? So is it something that you have to do? As Sean pointed out earlier, right? A lot of these entry jobs don't necessarily have it as a requirement, but the reason they list it as a recommendation is because once you have that type of certification, it is a way of kind of setting yourself different, right? A little bit of distinguishing yourself from the other applicants of, hey, not only do I have this level of knowledge, because that's what our boot camp is showing, right? The certificate that you get from Caltech and from Simply Learn is showing that, hey, this is the tools that we've discussed. These are the general knowledge. This is the foundations that I have. So they know that you have a certain level of competency, a certain level of skill, a certain level of knowledge, right? But then that's going to take it a little bit of a step above that of saying like, hey, not only do I have that, but I've also been able to go ahead and show that I have it in this particular area, whether that's security, networking, or something else, right? And so therefore, it's a way of being able to, like you said, make yourself more marketable, right? A way of being able to go ahead and try to be able to bring you above possibly the rest of the applicants, something to distinguish yourself from them. Sean?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. But really, it's just if you think about first of all, when we talk about certificates, I just want to make sure that we understand the difference between the certificate of completion that you'll get from Caltech and the industry-wide certifications, either in security, networking, all that. So there are two different type of certificates, or one's a certificate of completion, the other one we could call it like the cert, like you mentioned. Again, these are just helpers to build your resume to show that you know the content and that you have the skill set, but it's not a necessary requirement, or because at the end of the day, you're going to get a job through interviews, not just with your resume, right? Because they might look at your resume and say, okay, you have all these certificates. I want to interview this person and see how good they are or who they are, right? But it doesn't mean that it's going to get you the job. It's at the end of the day, it's the skill set that you learn from the cohort, from this boot camp, that's going to land you that job. But yeah, I just want to get that point across. It's not going to be like, hey, I got the certificate, now I can work here. We have to kind of, it's almost like we're teaching you how to like work out at like a gym, but through repetition, you're going to get the actual muscles behind and all that, like, and you can see those improvements. And it's almost like you're going to like a bodybuilding competition. They're, oh yeah, you not only know how to do like bicep curls and all that squat, but I could see that you've done a lot of workout, and I could, you're a fit guy. I don't know if this is a good analogy, by the way, but but basically, it's so that we get you to that level to get those interviews and to get you that knowledge. But it's really to kind of help you boost that resume so that people can look at you or look at your resume and be like, okay, he has like all these certifications. He might not have the work experience, but I could see that he has all these certifications. Let's go with the interview and then go from there. Does that help explain?
Yes,
or answer
it
your
did.
question? Okay. Cool. Any other questions? Yep, Flores. Is it Flores or is that Robert?
I go by Robbie, actually, but
Robbie?
Flores is my
Okay.
last name.
Okay, go ahead.
You guys mentioned this earlier, but I was hoping you can elaborate on some of the like red team exercises and labs that we will be doing, like the whole like hack the box exercises. I know in the initial required reading before the class even started, there's like some of like open source like tournaments we can be involved in, and I just was hoping you guys could elaborate more on what we'll be doing within the boot camp, and if you recommend us maybe getting involved in other tournaments as well, and would that help on our CVs, or is it even worth it? Will we learn everything we need just with this boot camp alone?
I'll answer first and I'll pass it over to Tony. But for this cohort, we are primarily focused on the blue team side. So red team, we're gonna teach you how basically the life cycle of a red team. So in order for you to hack something, what are some of the requirements? And we're gonna teach you every step of the way, but we're not gonna teach you to become a hacker, right? We're gonna teach you how to detect a hacker, how to detect anomalies, what to expect. It's almost like, how do you defend something if you never attacked before, right? So you're sort of teaching you offense first, to really give you the concept of defense. So all the extra curriculum and resources that we'll give you will help you enhance that knowledge. But the current curriculum, the way it's set up is that it's almost the introductory red team. So you'll be able to break into boxes that's vulnerable, but it's, in order to go above that level, there's going to be a lot of other resources, but it'll be outside the curriculum, if that makes sense.
Okay. Would you say that like learning more about blue team operations, like vice versa, would help you understand offensive down the road as well?
Oh, absolutely. Right. So it's almost like thinking, that's what we have red team, blue team is like, you can't be a better hacker if you don't know how to defend it. Once you know how to defend it, now you're trying to go over or go around that defense into different areas of offense. And same thing, if you're thinking about that offense, now you think about that defense, how to defend against that new type of an attack, and vice versa, right? So once you're strong in one point, it's only going to help you in the other side, whether it's offense or defense.
Okay.
The analogy I would use is think about sports, right? Like let's say football. If you want a good offense, they have to know how the defense is going to handle them, right? So that way they can be able to plan and coordinate and then be able to try and get around that defense, right? And vice versa. If you want a good defense, you got to know how the offense is going to operate and what are they going to try to go for and how they're going to try and be able to get past you. And then you're going to want to be able to practice both sides, right? So similar thing here. When we go over the red team, there's going to be a few machines that we're going to show you. And like Sean said, we're going to go step by step of every step of the way of this is how an attack can be done, right? And then we'll go ahead and practice with those machines that we'll have through Vocarium on how we can be able to go ahead and recognize that there's a vulnerability and then be able to get past that to be able to gain access to that box. Now, as you pointed out, it is kind of like an introductory, right? We're going to show you the basics of how to do it. And then if you want to go to what we might refer to, like if this were a university, an advanced version of Red Team, right? We're not going to get to that advanced version, right? We're just going to show you the basic concepts. How will the attack happen? What are they going to be doing? How we can do that so we can better understand how to defend against it. But you asked, do we recommend, would it make a difference for a resume if you were to go ahead and do some of those competitions or do something else? And I would say yes, right? If somebody that's looking to hire you, especially if you plan on working on something like penetration testing or something on the red team side, right? If they see that you're involved in competitions like that, if you have something that you can show them to show your skills, right? Especially if you don't have work experience. So you can be able to say, hey, I'm a part of hackthebox.com. And on there, I've hacked this box, this box, this box, this box, and so on and so forth. And you're able to demonstrate that to them. That's going to show that experience that you don't have from work experience, but at least through this, that you do have some experience in that field, right? So it's definitely going to be able to make a difference if that's what you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Any
Great
other
questions,
excellent
by the way.
questions?
Yeah.
All right. If there are no further questions, and that's all we have for you guys tonight, thank you guys for sticking around and for asking those excellent questions. We're going to continue to stay until there are no students left. So if you're done or if you don't have any more questions, you're more than welcome to be able to go ahead and sign off for the night. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Get a good night's rest.
All right. You have a good night.
Have a
Good night,
great
guys.
night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. See you soon.
Good night, everyone.
I think we still have one more learner. I see Abel.
Removed.
Oh, there we go. I was like, someone get
All
rid
right.
of him. Thank you. No, it was great. I love this. This was wonderful. Everyone, all the learners are amazing. All the trainers are amazing. It's going to be a great cohort. I'm very proud of you guys. So I
Likewise.
sent you the example on Slack. I sent you the example on Slack that I liked. You guys do whatever you feel is best. But when I first saw that, I was like, that's really neat. We should all do that. So yeah, have a great night, you guys. See you on Wednesday.
We'll see you guys then.
See ya. Good night, guys.
Bye.
Good night.